Hi guys. Tonight we drift back farther back than your lungs feel comfortable, imagining into a world where night is not a gentle curtain but a heavy animal pressing in on all sides. You stand on an ancient plain where the air tastes of dust and distant storms, and the sky above you stretches wider than anything you've ever seen. There are no cities, no lights, no soft electric hum, just the rhythm of your own breath and the rustle of tall, dry grasses, brushing your legs like cautious fingers. It's beautiful, yes, but you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're listening right now, tell me where you are in the world and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, because the darkness of early Earth folds around you like a cold blanket, and you begin to move slowly, quietly, as if any sudden sound might summon something with sharper teeth than you'd prefer to meet tonight. The ground beneath your feet is uneven, a patchwork of hardened mud and scattered stones warmed slightly by the day's sun. That warmth is fading already, slipping through your fingers with each passing breath, and you pull your thin animal hide wrap closer, though it barely helps. The wind sighs across the plain, carrying the faint smell of distant rain and the musk of herds you can't yet see. Up ahead, shadows drift in loose clusters, your group, your kin, your companions in this long, wandering life. They move with a rhythm born from years of following the same paths, reading the earth as if it speaks a language most modern humans have forgotten. You follow them instinctively, feeling the presence of something ancient settling into your bones. Here, in this moment, you're walking the same landscape that Homo erectus once crossed somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million years ago, depending on which stretch of the vast timeline you choose. A mainstream historical fact anchors you. Homo erectus was the first of your ancestors to spread widely beyond Africa, journeying across territories that would later become the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. But right now, none of that future geography matters. The land is simply land, endless and raw. What does matter is the deepening cold. Even on warm days, nighttime can fall like a trap, clamping down with a chill sharp enough to numb fingertips. You feel it now, the kind of cold that makes your muscles tighten and your breath turn shallow. And as you shiver, it's easy to understand why early humans needed something more than courage to get through nights like this. There's a quiet scratching at the edge of your hearing, a soft scuttling in the grass. You turn your head, muscles tense, but the sound slips away again. Could be nothing, could be something small. But you already know predators lurk in this darkness: hyenas with bone-crushing jaws, lions that move without a sound, saber-toothed cats whose patience could stretch longer than your courage. And while fire will one day hold many of those shadows at bay, tonight you don't have that luxury yet. Not this early in the story. Your foot catches on a root and you stumble forward, steadying yourself with a quick breath. The ground smells faintly of earth baked and cracked by heat, then cooled too quickly by nightfall. You crouch and press your palm to it, feeling the subtle warmth that clings stubbornly to the soil. This is your only comfort right now, residual heat that nature gives freely and then takes away. A quirky, fringe tidbit drifts into your thoughts one scholars still side-eye each other about. Some researchers have proposed that early human groups might have occasionally used naturally warmed volcanic stones or geothermal vents to sleep near, treating them like primitive heated floors long before anyone dreamt of plumbing. It's not a mainstream theory, but, well, you wouldn't mind a volcanic vent right now. Anything warm. Anything that keeps the night from creeping all the way into your bones. Your group continues forward, forming a loose semicircle as they approach a cluster of boulders. The rocks rise out of the ground like the ribs of the earth, sharp and angled, offering shelter from at least one direction. You settle behind them and feel the wind break slightly, turning from a cutting force into a tolerable breeze. It's not comfort, exactly, but it's something. Somewhere above, a bird calls out a low, throaty croak that echoes off the rocks. You tilt your head. Maybe an early species of owl, Maybe something related, but long gone now. The stars spread overhead, dizzyingly bright. You're not used to seeing them this way, without the haze of cities, without screens, without artificial light. They feel heavier, closer, like a ceiling of tiny fires you can't reach. Someone from your group drops a bundle of dry grass and roots beside you. Not for burning, not yet. Just bedding, maybe. Some of it crackles softly as it settles. A child you don't know curls beside their mother, nestling into the faint, shared warmth of bodies huddled close together. You can almost feel the trust built into those gestures, the soft exhale of safety in numbers. Historians still argue whether these early humans slept in tight clusters for warmth or spread out loosely to reduce parasite spread. But on a night like this, the closeness seems like the only reasonable choice. You draw your knees toward your chest and rest your chin against them. The cold gnaws softly at your ears, but you're adjusting. You always do. Humans are astonishingly adaptable, something Homo erectus embodied long before anyone carved symbols or told full stories. You listen to the rustle of grass as it waves in the wind and try to match your breathing to its rhythm. Inhale, long, slow. Exhale, softer still. The night seems less hostile when you move with it. And even though danger circles the edges of your awareness, you also sense the quiet magnificence of being here, on this ancient ground, under this sprawling sky, sharing the same kind of fear and awe your ancestors felt. The darkness around you becomes more familiar, more like a companion than a threat, and as you settle in, you notice something else too, the faintest glimmer along the horizon, a pulse of light, a flicker. For now, it's distant, harmless. But soon, that flicker will reshape everything. Your nights, your hunts, your winters, your future. It's a promise your ancestors don't yet understand, but you do. You close your eyes to the cold, to the wind, to the weight of the sky, letting the ancient world breathe around you. You wake slowly, still curled against the rough ground, and for a moment you cannot tell where your own breath ends and the pale morning mist begins. The night has passed, thin and restless, and the sky above you is shifting from deep blue to a muted grey that promises another long day of walking. You stretch your legs, feeling the stiffness in your joints, and then you rise, brushing bits of dry grass from your skin. The air is cool but no longer biting, and the first thin rays of light give you just enough direction to keep moving with your group of wandering ancestors. You fall into step behind them as they begin to move across the plain. Their footsteps leave a faint trail in the soft soil, almost like an idea being written before the wind erases it. The pace is steady, measured, familiar. These people walk more than they do anything else. Homo erectus was a tireless traveler, and the landscape itself seems shaped by their persistence. A mainstream historical fact settles into your thoughts. Early evidence shows that Homo erectus walked upright with a long stride similar to your own, supported by a body built for endurance. They were not sprinters. They were long-distance survivors. You breathe in the scent of grass warmed by the first hints of sun and notice a soft rustling at your side. Small antelope-like animals move away from your group in gentle leaps, their heads flicking nervously, their slender legs disappearing into the taller grass. Animals like these are both a source of hope and a nagging reminder of hunger. They dash too quickly to catch without planning and tools, but their presence means that water and vegetation are not far. Your group moves toward the faint sound of trickling water. The sound is subtle, but you begin to notice it as you listen closely. You push through a cluster of thorny bushes and find a narrow stream cutting through the dirt like a thin silver thread. You crouch and dip your hands into it. The water is cold, and when you bring it to your lips, it tastes of minerals and mud, but it is clean enough, and it satisfies the dryness in your mouth. Across the stream you see footprints, fresh ones. They are not human. They look like the deep oval prints of a large cat. Your chest tightens a little as you study them. They are wide, nearly the width of your hand, and the claws did not leave marks, which means the claws were sheathed. which means a predator that prefers stealth. You straighten slowly and look to your group, though no one seems particularly alarmed. Perhaps they crossed paths with this animal hours ago. Perhaps it is still close. Historians still debate whether Homo erectus understood animal tracking with any sophistication, but you can feel how alert your senses become when danger is close. It seems instinctive, automatic. You continue onward, the land changing beneath your feet with each step. The soft grasses become patches of drier, harder soil. The wind grows stronger, sweeping across the plain as if trying to herd you in a certain direction. The sky above you darkens slightly with thickening clouds that drift like heavy animals overhead. You pull your wrap closer around your shoulders, remembering the cold of last night far too clearly. You fall into a rhythm. Step, breath, step, breath. The sound of your own feet begins to settle your nerves. The early humans around you do not speak in the way you expect. Their voices are low, rough, almost humming. Communication flows through gestures, glances, small vocalizations that carry meaning you somehow understand. You watch one of them gesture toward the mountains far in the distance. It is a simple movement, but you understand there might be shelter there, shade, perhaps caves, perhaps safer nights. A quirky fringe tidbit floats to mind, something suggested by a few researchers. Some believe that wandering groups like this sometimes followed the movement of elephants, not just for scavenging opportunities, but because elephants often knew paths to water sources better than humans. You imagine how strange it would feel to follow giant animals like silent guides, watching their slow, deliberate steps carve a path through the wilderness. It sounds unlikely, yet the idea makes something in your imagination spark. The ground slopes gently upward as you walk, and the wind becomes even colder. You place your hand on your chest, steadying your breathing as you continue the climb. The early humans around you move confidently here. Their bodies are lean and strong. Their long legs carry them without hesitation. You feel your own steps mirror theirs, becoming steadier, more deliberate. You pass a cluster of tall rocks, their sides smooth and pale, shaped by thousands of years of erosion. The rocks hum faintly as the wind slices around them. The sound is oddly comforting. It reminds you that nature has many voices, and not all of them intend to frighten you. You trail your fingers along the stone as you walk. It feels cool, permanent. You imagine how many generations of early humans touched stone like this. How many stories began in places just like this one? Then you hear a sharp cry from up ahead. Your group slows. A hunter from the front gestures toward a distant line of trees. You squint, trying to see what caught his attention. At first you see nothing but shifting leaves. Then you see movement. Not the soft, quick motion of antelope. Something larger, bulkier. Perhaps a bison-like animal. Or perhaps something dangerous. Your heart thuds once, then again. You brace yourself before realizing the group is not preparing to attack or defend. They are simply watching, observing the landscape in the way their survival depends on. You let out a breath you did not notice you were holding. You walk again. The sky breaks open slightly, letting sunlight spill through the clouds in soft golden sheets. The warmth on your skin is gentle, almost fragile, but it feels like a promise. You move toward it instinctively, chasing the light as if it might lead you to something better. By midday, the plain widens and becomes a vast stretch of open land dotted with scattered trees. The air is warmer but still carries the memory of cold nights. You understand now why your ancestors kept moving. They were not aimless. They were following patterns in the land, searching for balance between heat and cold, danger and safety, scarcity and abundance. You pause and look back over the path you have taken. Your footprints are faint, almost gone already. But your presence here feels real, heavy, as if you have stepped into a story carved into the earth long before memory existed. Your group compacts slightly as you continue forward, shoulders near shoulders, steps matching steps. You feel the pull of belonging, a quiet strength that spreads through your chest. You are not alone out here. You share the struggle with others who breathe, think, fear, and adapt just as you do. You walk into the afternoon light, feeling the journey reshape you one step at a time. You move slowly into the late afternoon, and the light around you begins to soften, turning the landscape into a gentle wash of gold and dust. The warmth that pressed against your skin only an hour ago is slipping away, fading like a memory you cannot hold on to. You feel the familiar tightening in your shoulders as the first hints of evening cold settle in. The shifting weather is not simply unpleasant. It teaches you something that early humans learned painfully well. Every sunset brings a new challenge. Your group pauses on a small rise overlooking a shallow valley below. The grasses ripple like water under the wind, and you shiver as a chill works its way along your neck. The cold returns with the same insistence every night. It is a visitor you cannot ignore. You crouch beside a low bush to steady your breath, and as you watch the sky darken, you begin to understand why your ancestors had to adapt in ways that reshaped their entire existence. According to many archaeologists, climates during the life of Homo erectus fluctuated dramatically, swinging between warm seasons and harsh cold intervals that could strip the land bare. You sense that struggle in the air now. The wind grows sharper, like thin blades brushing your cheeks. You pull your wrap close, even though the material barely traps heat. Early humans had clothing far more rudimentary than anything you would consider comfortable, but their endurance was astonishing. A faint rustling behind you draws your attention. You turn slowly and see a few members of your group gathering dead branches, brittle shrubs, and the fallen remnants of last season's growth. They bundle it across their arms, clutching it as if it might be useful later, though you know fire is not yet fully under their command. Still, collecting brush is a habit learned from countless generations of watching nature shift around them. It is preparation, instinctive, and half-formed. You join them, reaching for a branch snapped clean by the wind. Its surface feels dry and splintered under your fingertips. As you lift it, the scent of old wood drifts up. It is faint but comforting in a way you cannot fully explain. The simple act of gathering reminds you that survival is not only about reacting to danger, but anticipating discomfort before it becomes unbearable. Someone whistles softly, a sharp, rising sound that draws everyone closer. You step toward the center of the group, standing shoulder to shoulder as they peer ahead. Down in the shallow valley, patches of earth appear white and pale, like frost or leftover salt. You step closer to the edge of the hill and look again. It is frost. Thin, delicate crystals clinging to the soil where the day's warmth could not reach. You inhale slowly. The cold is settling earlier today than yesterday. Your breath forms a faint cloud in front of your face. You run your thumb along your own forearm and feel a prickling sensation as tiny bumps rise on your skin. The night ahead will be unforgiving. One idea suggested by certain paleoanthropologists enters your mind. Winter was perhaps the greatest teacher of early humans. It forced innovation, cooperation, and sharper awareness. You can almost feel that lesson playing out in real time as your group surveys the widening stretch of frozen ground below. The first gust of night air sweeps up the rise, carrying with it a smell like wet stone and dying leaves. You brace yourself. The temperature drops with startling speed. Shadows lengthen around your group, as if pulled toward the icy patches in the valley. A tall member of your group grunts and gestures toward a cluster of trees in the distance. You all begin walking toward them. Your steps crunch softly on the earth as you descend the slope. The wind gnaws at your ears, and you bow your head slightly to protect your face from the cold. It is a long, slow trek, and with every step you feel the air grow heavier, denser, and far colder than before. Near the base of the hill, the group spreads out again. Some search for edible roots in the softer patches of soil, scraping with simple stone flakes. Others scout the perimeter, watching for predators that might use the dimming light to approach silently. It is not paranoia, it is necessity. Even a small lapse in vigilance could mean being taken by a stalking cat, a lurking hyena, or some other creature hungry enough to risk approaching a group of humans. You turn your attention to the sky. The clouds have thickened, smothering the last warmth of day. The air feels heavy, damp, as though winter is breathing directly onto your skin. You close your eyes against the sting of wind and imagine how ancient humans must have looked for patterns long before language allowed them to name those patterns. Darkening clouds, sudden silence from animals, sharp, rising wind, all of them telling a story of the cold to come. A less commonly mentioned anthropological proposal crosses your mind. Some researchers have suggested that early humans might have huddled close to sun-warmed stones after sunset, using the rocks as temporary heat sources before the night fully claimed them. As you pass a large boulder now, you place your palm against it. It holds the last traces of the day's heat, faint and fleeting but still real. You find yourself lingering there for a heartbeat longer than you intended. Night begins to settle fully. Darkness creeps across the land like ink spreading over parchment. The shadows deepen. The wind sharpens further until your eyes water. The temperature falls with a steadiness that feels almost purposeful. Your breath comes out in thin, white wisps now, vanishing instantly. The group begins searching for a place to shelter. You move among them, feeling the urgency in each step. You pass between trees whose branches rattle softly, clacking like wooden fingers tapping together. The smell of bark and damp earth surrounds you. You feel the pressure of the moment building inside your chest. One of the older members of the group finds a shallow depression beneath a leaning tree whose roots twist like ancient ropes around the earth. It is far from perfect, but it blocks at least one direction of the wind. The group moves toward it and begins clearing space. You kneel, brushing aside debris, forming a crude nest of dry grass. As the last traces of light fade, the cold intensifies. The air bites. Your fingers stiffen. You curl your body, pulling your knees close. The group gathers tightly, sharing whatever warmth bodies can provide. Before settling completely, you glance upward again. The stars are emerging, bright and sharp against the cold sky. Their stillness contrasts with the shivering tension in your muscles. In this moment, you understand how night could feel both breathtaking and terrifying to your ancestors. It is a sky full of cold fire and unreachable light. One more thought drifts in, something researchers occasionally propose. Early humans may have used simple rhythmic sounds or comforting murmurs during cold nights to steady one another's nerves, an echo of lullabies long before words existed. As you listen to the quiet hums and low breaths around you, that possibility feels almost certain. You close your eyes slowly while the night settles around your group like a vast, silent predator. The cold creeps deeper, but you are not alone. You are surrounded by others who feel the same chill, the same fear, the same determination. And in this shared struggle, a quiet strength begins to grow, a strength that will one day change everything. You wake before dawn because a sudden crack splits the silence. It is not near you. It rolls across the plains like the sky itself has snapped in two. You jolt upright, your breath sharp in your throat, your body still stiff from the cold night. The group around you stirs with low murmurs, eyes half open, bodies shivering from the layer of frost forming along their hair and shoulders. You sit perfectly still for a moment, listening. There it is again, a rumble, a deep, rolling sound that shakes the air. You rise slowly and push through a thin curtain of branches to look toward the horizon. The sky is still dark, streaked with early shades of purple and blue, but beyond the distant hill, flashes of light bloom briefly, then vanish, lightning, sharp and blinding. Each flash reveals the silhouette of the land with a cold, ghostly brightness. You inhale, feeling a tremor of surprise. Storms like this are dangerous, yet they bring something that will change everything about the way you and your ancestors survive. You take a few steps forward, squinting at the sky as another bolt tears downward, illuminating the clouds with a frightening beauty. According to widely accepted research, dry lightning storms were likely the earliest source of natural wildfires that Homo erectus encountered. You feel the truth of that idea as the next flash streaks down and touches the ground somewhere beyond your sight. For a moment, the sky glows, then darkness returns, heavier than before. Your group gathers behind you. They stand shoulder to shoulder, eyes fixed on the direction of the lightning. Some tilt their heads in interest, others in caution. No one speaks. The unspoken understanding is simple. Where lightning strikes, fire soon follows. A low rumble builds again, this one closer. You strain your ears, waiting. A moment later, the wind shifts. It comes from the direction of the storm, carrying a faint scent that makes your heart quicken. Something dry and sharp. Something warm despite the cold air. It smells like burning vegetation, charred earth, distant smoke. You glance at your companions and see the same spark of recognition in their eyes. There is no fear, not yet, only curiosity. Curiosity mixed with a cautious, instinctive pull toward warmth that could mean survival. You begin walking toward the distant smell, leaving the shallow shelter behind. The group follows quietly, feet brushing against stiff, frosted grass. The ground slopes downward. Frost crunches under your toes. The air smells stronger as you walk. Smoke is becoming more distinct now. You keep your pace carefully measured. Too fast, and you risk stepping into danger without seeing it. Too slow, and you lose the fleeting warmth carried by the wind. A flicker catches your eye, a small, pulsing glow in the valley ahead. You narrow your gaze. Another glow appears beside it, then another. You realize they are reflections. Fire is dancing somewhere beyond a stand of low trees. You move closer. The frost melts under your feet as the temperature rises. The smell thickens into something unmistakable. Burning brush, heated sap, smoke drifting through the branches like a thin mist. The edges of the trees glow. As you step between them, you feel the heat brush your skin for the first time. It is soft at first, then stronger, deep enough that it seems to reach under your cold skin and touch bone. You exhale in relief, letting the warmth roll through your muscles. Before you lies a scene that feels both terrifying and mesmerizing. A branch lies split on the ground, flames clinging to it like bright insects dancing along its surface. The grass around it has blackened. A few patches still smolder, sending tiny spirals of smoke into the air. The lightning must have struck here only moments before. Your group halts. No one steps closer. Fire is still new to them, unpredictable and loud. It crackles sharply, sending sparks upward. The flames twist and reach as if hungry. Your heart pounds, but not from fear, from awe. This is light in a world of darkness. This is heat in a world of cold. You crouch slowly, keeping your distance. You study the flames, watching them move. The heat wavers before your eyes. It feels alive. It breathes. It consumes. Your companions hover behind you, unsure whether to approach. One of the younger members takes a hesitant step forward. He stretches his hand toward the heat, then pulls it back with a startled sound, when a burst of crackle leaps from the burning grass. Everyone takes a breath, both fearful and enchanted. A theory embraced by many anthropologists suggests that early humans may have first used fire, not by creating it themselves, but by harvesting the remains of natural wildfires. You see the logic of that here. The storm has gifted you something powerful, something your cold bones desperately need. You move closer, inch by inch. The flames reflect in your eyes like shining threads. You hold your hands toward the warmth until your skin tingles. It feels like stepping into sunlight after a long winter. Behind you, the group whispers in soft, uncertain tones. Their bodies lean instinctively toward the fire. Hunger, cold, fatigue, and curiosity mix inside them like a quiet storm of their own. Suddenly, another crack echoes from a nearby tree as a weakened branch falls and bursts into flame upon landing. You flinch backward, but your heart continues to race with fascination rather than panic. The fire spreads along the dry bark, moving with quick, purposeful life. There is a gentle tug inside your mind, a strange thread of understanding forming before words even exist. Fire is dangerous. yet it offers something precious: heat, protection, light. Even cooked food once your ancestors learned to use it. You cannot name these concepts, but your body senses their importance. Another idea often floated by researchers comes to you now. Some suggest that early humans may have watched animals react to fire before they dared approach it themselves. You glance around and notice birds circling above the smoke. Small scavengers wait at the edges of the burned patch, ready to search for insects fleeing the heat. Even predators sometimes linger at the perimeter after a wildfire, using the clearing to hunt. Perhaps your ancestors learned courage from watching these creatures. Or perhaps they learned caution. Your attention returns to the flames. A burning branch rolls slightly, sending sparks into the air. You notice something important. Beneath the outer flames, glowing red embers pulse gently. They seem more stable, more controllable. Your instincts pull toward them. Embers can be carried. Embers can be saved. You pick up a long stick, hesitating for a heartbeat before inching it toward the fire. Heat washes over your hand. You place the end near the glowing coals, letting it absorb warmth. You do not know why you are doing it, only that it feels right. Your group watches closely. The moment feels suspended, like a breath held by the earth itself. You lift the stick. It glows faintly at the tip. Not enough to burn, but enough to hold heat for a short time. You exhale slowly. You imagine walking through the night with even a small shard of warmth. The thought fills you with something close to hope. You step back, still holding the warm stick, while the fire crackles behind you. The dawn light finally breaks across the horizon. The sky turns soft grey and pale rose. The cold begins to retreat. For the first time, you feel a shift inside you. Fire is no longer only a distant force of nature. It is something your ancestors can approach, study, maybe even claim if they are brave enough. You look at the glowing horizon and clutch the stick gently. You understand that this single moment will echo through tens of thousands of generations. You have just witnessed the beginning of a bond that will reshape humanity. You stand with the warm stick in your hand, its tip faintly glowing like a quiet heartbeat. The fire behind you crackles and sighs, sending thin ribbons of smoke into the morning air. Your group gathers close, forming a loose ring around the fading blaze. Their breaths mix with the cold, creating small clouds that drift upward. The storm has passed, yet the world still carries a damp heaviness, as if the earth remembers every flash of lightning that struck it. You lift the stick slightly, watching the ember glow dim, then brighten again when a soft breeze touches it. The warmth is fragile. It will fade if you do nothing. But the idea forming in your mind is simple and astonishing. If the ember can be protected, perhaps it can be carried. And if it can be carried, perhaps warmth does not have to disappear when the fire dies. A member of your group steps closer, their face illuminated by the last flickering tongues of the wildfire. They make a low sound, something between a hum and a questioning grunt. You show them the glowing tip of your stick. They lean in, squinting, then extend their hand cautiously toward the warmth. When the heat brushes their skin, they pull back with a gasp. Not from pain, from wonder. A well-supported idea among specialists suggests that Homo erectus likely learned to transport naturally occurring fire long before they mastered the art of creating it. You see the early form of that behavior right here. No one speaks, yet everyone understands the value of what you hold. You crouch near the smoldering patch where the lightning struck. Beneath charred grass, small embers still pulse. You extend your stick again, rolling it gently near the glowing coals. Sparks whisper upward. The ember catches more strongly this time, burning brighter against the wood. Your chest warms with a quiet, primal excitement. You need something to protect the ember. You scan the ground and find clusters of dry grass, thin strips of bark, a few brittle twigs. With slow movements, you gather them into your palm. You wrap the grass loosely around the glowing end, careful not to smother it completely. The warmth gathers under the grass, glowing faintly through the fibers. It is delicate, but real. You stand, lifting your creation with both hands. Your group watches closely. Their expressions carry awe and uncertainty. You feel like you are holding something alive. The fire behind you has begun to shrink. Flames collapse into the center, leaving only glowing patches and rising smoke. The lightning storm gifted this fire, yet its life is short unless someone chooses to preserve it. You step away from the dying blaze and walk toward the group, cradling your ember bundle. The tall hunter, who often leads the group, touches the edge of the wrapped grass with a single finger. The heat makes him flinch slightly. He grunts approvingly. In this small gesture, you sense a shift among your companions. They are beginning to see fire not only as a force to fear or admire, but as a resource that can be tended and used. One unusual theory sometimes mentioned by researchers suggests that the earliest carriers of fire may have been inspired not by deliberate planning but by accidents. For example, a burning branch might have been dragged away by an animal or caught in a hunter's spear. Whether or not that happened, the scene unfolding now feels intentional, purposeful, evolutionary. The group begins to move. You walk with them, staying in the center so the ember is shielded from the wind. Every few steps, you glance down to ensure the faint glow remains alive. When the breeze grows too strong, you cup your hands around the wrapped grass, protecting it as if protecting a fragile infant. Your feet press into muddy patches left behind by the rain. You navigate over fallen branches slick with moisture. The weight of the ember in your hand feels symbolic, almost spiritual. You think of the cold nights behind you and the countless nights ahead. If this tiny flame can be kept alive, the group may never face darkness in quite the same way again. You reach a cluster of trees that offer shelter from the wind. Here, the group pauses. The leader gestures for you to crouch. You kneel and lift the bundle slightly to show the others the glowing ember inside. They gather around. You unwind a few pieces of grass. A thin curl of smoke escapes, and the ember glows brighter upon contact with fresh air. You notice something important. The ember might kindle new fire if it touches something dry enough, but the land is still damp from the storm. The group searches, their hands brushing over tree roots, old pods, and dried bark in hopes of finding something that will catch easily. A younger member discovers a handful of dry seed husks beneath the shelter of an overhanging rock. They hand them to you with an eager look. You place the husks near the ember, blowing softly to encourage the heat. The ember brightens, sending a tiny flare into the husks. They smolder, then glow, then collapse into red dust. Not enough to ignite a flame, but progress. You inhale slowly. Your breath tastes of smoke and hope. Another hunter brings you a thin strip of bark peeled from a tree. It is dry at its center. You lay it gently near the ember and blow again, steady and slow. The ember clings to the bark, spreading a faint orange line along its surface. The group leans in as if witnessing a sacred moment. But the flame does not grow. Not yet. The air is still too wet and the wind slips between the trees with a cold bite. You wrap the bark again, shielding the ember. You know you must keep moving before the cold drains its strength. You stand, and the group continues deeper into the shelter of the trees. The terrain becomes uneven, with exposed roots and fallen logs that slow your pace. You clutch your ember bundle tightly to your chest. Each gust of wind tests your reflexes. Each step carries the risk of smothering or losing the heat. As you walk, the sun climbs higher, breaking through the thinning clouds. Light pours through the branches in smooth, warm shafts. You pause when the sunlight reaches your hands. You lift the bundle toward it. The heat of the sun helps dry the fresh grass around the ember. Steam rises faintly. You smile, realizing the sun itself has become part of your effort to preserve fire. Farther ahead, you find a patch of grass still dry from shelter under thick branches. You kneel there, unwrapping the ember again. This time, the grass catches more easily. A wisp of smoke curls upward. You blow gently. The glow strengthens, creeping along a small cluster of fibers. The group remains silent, their breaths held. You continue blowing, steady and calm, Then it happens. A small flame appears, tiny, trembling, but alive. Warm orange light flickers against your hands. You feel heat against your face. The group lets out a collective whisper of amazement. It feels like the earth itself has spoken to them. A widely accepted theory holds that learning to nurture fire from a single spark may have been one of the most transformative thresholds for early humans. Watching this moment unfold, you believe it completely. Your flame is small but stable. You add more dry grass, then small twigs. The flame grows taller, brighter, stronger. You lean back slowly and let out a long breath. This fire is yours now, not the storm's. Your group gathers closer, forming a protective circle. They extend their hands toward the warmth, sighing softly as heat spreads along their cold skin. The flame crackles gently, lighting their faces with soft gold. For the first time, you feel the beginning of mastery. Not full control, not creation, but stewardship. The ability to carry fire, to protect it, to coax it back to life. You look at the growing flame and understand its promise. It is warmth on freezing nights. It is light in oppressive darkness. It is protection from creatures lurking just outside the glow. It is possibility. You feed the flame another twig. It responds with a bright lick of light. Your ancestors have just taken their first step in turning fire from a wild force into a companion. The fire glows warmly in the clearing, and for the first time since the storm you feel your shoulders loosen. The flames dance in small waves, twisting upward with a soft hiss each time a twig collapses into glowing ash. Your group gathers around it with quiet reverence. No one moves too quickly. No one speaks above a whisper. This is not just warmth. It is discovery taking its first breath. You crouch near the edge of the fire, studying it as if it were an unfamiliar animal. The flames sway gently, almost rhythmically, responding to each shift of the wind. You reach your hand closer, pausing when the heat becomes intense, then pulling back with a small gasp. It amazes you how the fire gives warmth one moment and threatens your skin the next. It is gentle, then fierce. It consumes, yet it nurtures. According to many specialists who study the earliest human interactions with fire, Homo erectus likely understood fire through long periods of close observation. You feel that process now. Every crackle, every hiss, every flicker becomes a lesson. You can tell when the fire is hungry by the way the flames shrink. You notice how it grows stronger when fed dry materials. It behaves almost like a creature with moods, one that rewards care and punishes negligence. You pick up a long stick and ease it into the outer edge of the flame. It catches slowly, glowing orange before the tip bursts into a tiny blaze. You lift it and watch the fire cling to the wood like a living thing. You turn the stick gently, letting the fire crawl along its length. The glow warms your face and paints your fingers with shimmering light. One unusual but intriguing interpretation suggests that early humans may have thought of fire as a spirit or a living entity, not simply a natural force. You can understand why. The flame in your hand seems almost aware of movement, reacting to each change in air and touch. It is impossible not to feel a strange respect for it. You thrust the stick deeper into the flames, but a sudden flare forces you to pull back. A burst of heat washes against your skin, and the group steps away with startled sounds. The fire crackles loudly as if scolding you. You steady yourself and kneel again. The fire returns to its calm swaying, and you exhale slowly. Your companions begin testing the fire for themselves. One reaches a hand toward the warmth, withdrawing at the edge of pain. Another tosses in a handful of dried grass, smiling faintly when the flames surge. A child steps closer and imitates you, poking at the logs with a stick. Their cautious movements show a combination of fear and fascination. The fire becomes a teacher. Each spark becomes a piece of knowledge waiting to be learned. A widely recognized piece of archaeological evidence suggests that early hearths may have functioned not only as sources of warmth, but also as communal spaces where groups gathered to observe and experiment together. You see the beginnings of that dynamic here. Your group huddles closer, forming a half circle. Their bodies relax, their breaths slow. The warmth loosens the cold from their muscles in a way nothing else can. You pick up a larger branch from the ground. The wood is still damp on the outside from the storm, but the inner layers feel dry. You tap it lightly against the edge of the fire pit. Then you lower it into the flames. At first nothing happens. Then a thin wisp of smoke rises from the bark. The wood darkens. Small bubbles of sap appear. Slowly, the fire begins to chew into it. The flames creep upward with patience, as if testing the wood before accepting it. The group watches closely. You wait until the branch finally catches, then set it gently on the glowing coals. The fire brightens significantly, pushing back the cold air with renewed strength. Another thought passes through your mind, drawn from ideas proposed by several anthropologists. They suggest that mastering fire required an extended period of trial and error. You can feel that truth as you experiment. You sense how easily the fire could die if left unattended for too long. You sense how quickly it could grow out of control if fed too much at once. Balance is everything. A sudden gust of wind sweeps through the clearing. The flames bend sideways, sparks scattering in a brief shower. You panic for a moment, shielding your face. The ember core remains stable, but small burning fragments drift into the nearby grass. Your group reacts immediately, stomping the sparks before they can ignite dry areas. You join them, pressing your foot against a glowing patch until it dims. You return to the fire and feel a pulse of adrenaline mixed with relief. The group now understands something vital. Fire is not only useful, it is unpredictable. It demands attention. You sit again and lean closer, watching the flames recover their slow rhythm. You place a few more small twigs near the center, arranging them in a loose pattern. You notice the fire burns differently depending on how the materials are placed. Branches stacked tightly produce a lower, hotter glow. Twigs spread apart make taller, gentler flames. The structure changes everything. One intriguing perspective often mentioned in scientific circles suggests that early humans may have viewed fire almost as a problem-solving partner, not because they understood it intellectually, but because each interaction revealed new possibilities. As you adjust the twigs and watch the fire respond, you feel the beginning of that ancient partnership. Your group begins to settle as the warmth spreads outward. Some sit with their legs stretched toward the fire, sighing softly. Others rub their hands together, soaking in the comfort. The child curls beside a parent, eyelids heavy as the heat lulls their body into rest. The fire becomes the center of the world for a moment. Its glow outlines the faces around you. Light flickers across their eyes, revealing hints of curiosity, relief, and something deeper, a sense of safety in a dangerous world. You touch the ground beside the fire. The soil is warm. A gentle heat radiates through your fingertips. You imagine how nights might change with this new companion. No more shivering endlessly in the dark. No more waking to frozen limbs. Fire can push back the night. Fire can slow the hunger that cold carries. You lean back on your hands and breathe in the smoky air. The smell is thick and earthy. It clings to your skin, settling into your hair. It will follow you for days, marking you as a creature who has touched flame. Your eyes lift to the sky. The clouds have thinned. Patches of pale blue appear between them. The sunlight filters through leaves, mingling with the warm glow from the fire. Morning has deepened into full day, yet you feel strangely calm. The world seems slightly more manageable now. Another idea occasionally raised by researchers comes to mind. They propose that early humans may have associated fire with moments of calm reflection. Even without language, they might have used the quiet time at the hearth to observe, think, and internalize new experiences. As you sit by the flames, letting your breath slow, you sense how easily the mind drifts into stillness beside warmth. You add another twig. The flame curls around it in a soft spiral of orange. You smile faintly, caught in the rhythm of the fire. The group begins preparing to move again. You know the fire cannot be left behind. Someone must take responsibility. You stand and gather remaining embers into a makeshift container of bark and tightly bundled grass. You save enough to reignite warmth later in the day. You watch the flames dim as you remove the ember core. The fire settles into glowing coals. Then you rise, holding the ember pack carefully, and the group begins its next journey. The fire does not follow you, but its heart does, and that is enough to change the world. You walk with the ember bundle held close to your chest, feeling its soft warmth soak into your arms as your group makes its way toward a cluster of rocks in the distance. The fire you left behind has faded, but its spirit travels with you, glowing faintly inside its cradle of bark and dried grass. Every few steps you glance down to make sure the ember remains alive. It flickers gently through the fibers, a warm, pulsing reminder that you now carry something powerful. The day stretches slowly. The ground shifts under your feet from soft soil to small pebbles that crunch lightly with each step. The breeze cools your face, but the ember offers a balance, a subtle comfort that loosens the tension in your shoulders. Your group moves steadily, guided by familiarity rather than destination. Their strides are calm but purposeful. It seems all of them feel the same urgency. Find a safe place to rest before dusk. As you near the rocky outcrop, the scent of old stone and dry earth fills the air. The rocks rise from the ground like silent guardians. Their surfaces are rough and pale, marked by centuries of wind. You lead the way toward a narrow gap between two boulders. Inside, the space widens slightly, offering a shallow hollow sheltered from most of the wind. The others begin clearing the ground, brushing away fallen leaves and scattered debris. You crouch and unwrap the ember bundle carefully. A faint thread of smoke rises. The ember glows weakly but steadily, like a soft eye watching you from within the grass. You feel a surge of relief. The journey has not extinguished it. You place a few dry twigs around the ember, arranging them in the shape you observed earlier. You blow gently, giving the ember air without overwhelming it. The glow brightens. A small curl of smoke forms, then another. Slowly, patiently, a thin flame appears. It wavers for a moment before catching the edge of a twig. The others gather around, their faces reflecting the first flicker of light. A sense of quiet pride moves through your chest as the flame grows. You feed it another twig, watching the fire strengthen as it licks at the bark. According to many archaeological interpretations, the ability to create a stable hearth marked a profound shift in human routine. A hearth was not merely a place to burn wood. It became a center for rest, protection, and shared experience. You feel that transformation beginning as the flames rise in your small shelter. Your group settles around the fire in a loose circle. They stretch their legs toward the warmth, sighing softly as their muscles relax. The child tucks into their mother's side, eyelids heavy from the long walk. The fire's glow reflects on their cheeks, painting them in soft amber light. You adjust the branches again. You notice how the flames climb higher when the wood lies in a certain pattern. You realize how the air flows between gaps, helping the fire grow. These details settle into your mind with surprising ease, as if fire is teaching you its rules one spark at a time. A curious notion shared by some researchers comes to mind. It suggests that early humans may have learned the behavior of fire long before developing complex language. Their understanding grew through imitation, gesture, and the slow accumulation of shared experience. Watching your group now, you see how knowledge can pass silently. A child watches you add fuel, then copies the movement. Another adult pays attention to how you shield the flame from gusts of wind. The learning is quiet, but constant. The warmth spreads outward in soft waves. Your cold, stiffened fingers finally loosen. Your breath no longer leaves your lips in fast, shallow bursts. The fire becomes the center of everything, drawing you inward with its glow. As the flame stabilizes, you notice how sound changes in its presence. The crackling of twigs covers distant noises, creating a small circle of auditory comfort. The wind continues to whistle outside the shelter, but its sharpness fades. You hear it differently now, softened by the fire's steady rhythm. Your group begins preparing food scavenged earlier in the day. A few roots, some fibrous stems, a small collection of edible pods. You watch as one of the older members places a root near the fire, close enough to warm but not burn. The smell soon changes slightly. The harsh bitterness softens, giving way to a mild, earthy aroma. Someone touches the heated root and nibbles a small piece. Their eyes widen. The warmth has altered the flavor. A well-supported insight in human evolution suggests that cooking began not with deliberate cuisine, but with simple discoveries like this one. Heat softens tough fibers. It makes certain foods safer and easier to chew. You sense that revelation hovering in the air, though your group does not yet fully grasp the importance of what they have stumbled upon. You taste a warmed piece of root. It feels softer against your teeth. The bitterness has faded. You chew with unexpected ease. The warmth travels from your mouth into your chest, creating a sense of comfort that goes beyond hunger. The fire crackles again, sending sparks swirling upward. You lean forward, feeding the flame a few thin branches. The fire responds instantly, climbing into a brighter arc. You smile softly at the flame as if greeting a friend. An interesting line of thought from several paleoanthropologists suggests that early humans may have developed emotional associations with fire long before they understood its practical uses. Warmth, safety, and light can easily become symbols of comfort. As you sit by the flames, that idea does not feel far-fetched at all. Your group shifts positions, bodies inch closer to the glow. The fire heats the stone walls, turning them into a reservoir of warmth. Even the air seems softer now, less sharp on your skin. Twilight begins creeping across the sky outside the shelter. Colors fade slowly from gold to gray as the sun lowers behind the distant hills. Shadows stretch across the ground, reaching toward your refuge. You glance into the darkening landscape and feel a sense of separation. The world beyond the fire seems colder, wilder, more dangerous. You add a sturdy piece of wood to the growing hearth. The fire accepts it with a low hum and begins burning steadily. Your group watches, trusting that the flame will hold through the night. Another idea sometimes discussed by researchers enters your mind. The hearth may have been the first true gathering place for humans, the first symbol of shared identity. Around fire, early humans could stay awake longer, reflect, plan, and simply be together. Here, in this rocky hollow, you feel that sense of community forming. The firelight dances across faces, revealing small smiles and tired eyes. Your group leans in close, warmed by the glow, bound by the same fragile miracle. For the first time, night does not feel like an enemy. It feels like something you are finally prepared to meet. The fire continues to burn through the night, and when morning finally arrives, you wake to a soft bed of embers glowing beneath a thin layer of ash. The air outside the rocky shelter feels surprisingly gentle, but you can still sense the memory of cold lingering just beyond the first warmth of daylight. You rise slowly, stretching stiff limbs, and glance at the hearth. The ash shifts as a breeze passes through, revealing small points of light pulsing at its core. Your group begins to stir. Some brush away dirt from their arms. Others collect nearby stones, roots, and branches. The space feels different now. Less chaotic, more intentional. Fire has shaped the morning rhythm, and everyone seems to recognize it without needing words. You crouch by the hearth and blow lightly across the ash. Thin smoke rises. Beneath it, the embers brighten. You feed them a few dry twigs. The familiar crackle returns, slow and steady. The flames rise once more. The simple action fills you with quiet satisfaction. Your group eats a modest breakfast. A few roots softened by leftover warmth, a handful of berries found in a shaded grove, and a scattering of edible leaves. The meal is simple, but the heated roots feel kinder on your teeth than the raw ones used to. The difference is subtle but undeniable. As you finish eating, you notice one of the hunters sharpening a stone tool. They scrape one stone against another, creating a rhythmic tapping. Tiny flakes fall away. The resulting edge looks cleaner, sharper. According to widely accepted archaeological findings, the Acheulean hand axe was a signature tool associated with Homo erectus. You imagine something similar forming in the hunter's hands now. Its edges glint as sunlight catches the smooth stone surface. Another member of the group watches your fire with intrigue. They pick up a small stick and hold it near the flame, turning it slowly. The end blackens. A thin char layer forms. You smell the shifting scent of wood changing under heat. Without realizing it, you witness another small discovery. Fire toughens wood or makes it easier to shape. That knowledge will matter later, though none of you know it yet. You and your group pack up slowly. Before leaving, you take the time to prepare a new ember bundle. You select a thicker piece of bark and pack it carefully with dry grasses. You scoop a glowing ember from the hearth and nestle it inside. Smoke trails upward in a thin line as the ember settles. You wrap the bundle tightly, then hold it close to your chest. The group sets out across the open land once again. The sun rises higher, warming your skin. You can smell the rich scent of soil heated by morning light. Birds circle the air above you, their calls echoing across the plain. The world feels alive, pulsing with sound and movement. As you walk, the terrain shifts gradually. The flat plains give way to rolling hills dotted with scattered shrubs. You move carefully, aware that food is not always easy to find. The group fans out slightly to search for roots, seeds, or signs of animal tracks. Each person plays a role without needing instruction. A few hours into your journey, the wind turns colder. You tighten your grip on the ember bundle. The warmth radiating from it calms your nerves. You can already imagine how much relief it will bring when the next chill sets in. You reach a gentle slope that leads into a wide basin. The land here looks different. Vegetation is thicker, greener. A shallow stream cuts across the center of the basin, sparkling in the midday light. You kneel to drink. The water tastes clean and refreshingly cold. As you rest near the stream, you observe several animal tracks along the muddy bank. Some belong to small deer-like creatures. Others belong to something heavier. A round print with deep impressions suggests a large herbivore passed through recently. The hunters examine the tracks with sharp eyes. They gesture to one another, tracing patterns in the mud. Their movements express intention and caution. A compelling interpretation favored by several scholars suggests that early humans may have used fire to influence hunting patterns long before true strategy emerged. For example, carrying a smoldering torch might help keep predators away during tracking. You hold your ember bundle and consider how its warmth might serve more purposes than survival alone. Your group moves again, following the edge of the basin. You climb a series of low ridges, the earth beneath your feet shifting from soft mud to rough gravel. The sun climbs to its highest point, bathing the land in bright light. Shadows shorten. The warmth intensifies. You hold the ember bundle lightly to avoid overheating it. Near the top of a ridge, you pause. A wide view unfolds below you. Patches of forest stretch along the horizon. Grassy plains roll like gentle waves. A faint haze rises from the distant ground, shimmering under sunlight. You sense the vastness of the world in a way that stirs something deep and wordless inside your chest. The group descends into a shaded area filled with tall trees. The air cools instantly. The scent of damp leaves surrounds you. You hear the soft patter of drops falling from branches overhead. They glisten like beads of glass when the sun finds them. You stop near a fallen tree. Its bark is soft and beginning to break apart. You see insects crawling along its cracked surface. A few members of the group gently lift pieces of the bark, revealing fat grubs beneath. They gather them quickly. Protein is precious. You sit in the shade and examine the ember bundle again. The smoke is faint but still present. You loosen the outer layer carefully, allowing the ember to breathe. Its glow brightens, reassuring you. The group pauses to rest in the cool shade. Some sit against tree trunks. Others lie on soft moss. You feel the calm settling in, carried by the quiet melody of leaves rustling above you. While resting, you notice the older hunter retrieving the charred stick they prepared earlier. They place the blackened tip gently against their teeth and bite slightly. The wood separates in a cleaner, straighter line than an unheated stick would have. A fascinating hypothesis often mentioned in studies of early toolmaking proposes that fire-hardened wood might have been used to shape or refine tools long before metal existed. Watching the hunter work now, that idea feels tangible. Your group rises after the brief rest. You continue walking through the shaded forest, following a faint trail created by large animals. The canopy filters the sunlight into scattered beams. Your eyes adjust to the dimmer surroundings. The air grows cooler still. Then a sound breaks the stillness. A rustle, a crack of a branch. The group freezes. You hold your breath. Something large is moving nearby, hidden by thick foliage. You grip the ember bundle tightly. The movement shifts. A heavy snort echoes through the trees. The hunters exchange glances. They ready their stone tools. You step back quietly, aware of your vulnerability. But the creature moves away. You hear its footsteps pounding softly against the ground. Leaves tremble. Then silence returns. Relief washes through your group. Shoulders loosen. Breath steadies. One of the hunters nods lightly in your direction, signaling that you may continue walking. Eventually, the trees thin, and sunlight spills onto your path again. You emerge from the forest into a broad clearing. The wind stirs the tall grass. The warmth of midday air replaces the forest's cool shadows. This clearing feels safe enough to pause. You kneel, unwrapping the ember bundle once more. You gather dry grass and wood. With practiced breaths, you coax the ember into a small flame. The fire rises quickly this time, fed by sunlight-dried materials. The group gathers close again. Some warm their hands, others warm food. A soft sense of ritual begins forming around the hearth. The placement of stones, the careful feeding of the flames, the way everyone sits in a gentle arc. An insightful perspective shared by many experts proposes that fire became a unifying center for early social bonds. Sitting in the clearing now, watching flames reflect in familiar eyes, you feel the truth of that deeply. The fire's glow softens the harshness of the world. It ties the group together in quiet harmony. And as the flames sway, you sense a new understanding forming inside you. Fire is not simply an external force. It is beginning to shape the way you live, the way you move, the way you think. You feed the flame another twig, letting its light grow stronger. The journey continues. But now, you carry more than just warmth. You carry connection. The sun continues its slow journey across the sky as your group rests in the clearing, but you can feel the shift in the air. The warmth of midday begins to fade. A subtle sting settles against your skin as a colder wind creeps in from the north. You look toward the open plains beyond the trees and notice a thin line of mist trailing along the horizon. Winter is drawing closer. Each passing day brings a slightly sharper chill, a slightly darker dusk, a slightly longer night. You crouch by the fire, feeling its heat radiate into your face, while your back senses the growing cold behind you. The contrast makes you shiver. You add a few more branches, listening to the familiar crackle as the flames rise. The fire responds instantly, almost gratefully, sending soft waves of warmth across the clearing. Your companions shift closer, huddling around it as if drawn by instinct. According to several well-regarded climate studies, the world Homo erectus inhabited often swung between periods of warmth and sudden drops in temperature. You feel that reality settling into your bones now. The wind carries a crispness that signals harsher nights ahead. The body of each person around you seems to acknowledge the same truth. The fire is no longer merely useful. It is becoming essential. As the warmth spreads, a young member of the group reaches out and lets their fingers hover near the flame. They watch the fire with wide eyes. The light dances across their face, making the shadows ripple behind them. You see curiosity there, but also awareness. The cold makes lessons easier to accept. You rise and survey the surrounding land. The clearing provides shelter for now, but it offers little protection once the wind fully sharpens. You can already imagine icy gusts sweeping across this open space after sunset. The group will need a safer resting place, somewhere with cover, somewhere where fire can survive the night without being extinguished by an unkind gust. A practical line of reasoning, supported by archaeological interpretations, suggests that Homo erectus often sought refuge in caves or rock shelters during colder periods. You look toward a set of low hills in the distance and notice darkened patches in their surface, possible openings, possible refuge. You gesture toward the hills. The leader follows your gaze and nods. The group begins gathering their few possessions. One of the hunters kicks dirt softly over the outer edge of the fire to prevent stray sparks from drifting into the grass. You save a glowing ember again, wrapping it carefully in dry material. The bundle pulses faintly in your hands, warm and alive. You begin walking. The wind grows colder as you leave the relative safety of the trees. Your breath forms soft clouds that float away behind you. You tuck the ember bundle inside your wrap to shield it from the wind. Each step feels heavier now, and the chill begins to creep into your legs. The group pushes forward, moving in a tighter formation than usual. The cold encourages closeness. Shoulders brush. Feet fall into similar rhythms. You can hear the breathing of those around you, quick and shallow at first, then more controlled as they adjust to the temperature. The landscape grows quieter as the cold deepens. Insects fall silent. Small animals remain hidden. Even the birds reduce their calls. The world seems to hold its breath. Only the wind speaks, and its voice is harsh. A thought proposed by some researchers drifts through your mind. They suggest that early hominins may have formed stronger social cooperation in times of environmental stress, bonding more tightly as temperatures fell. The behavior around you supports that idea. The group moves as a unified body, alert and interdependent. Fire has given purpose, but the cold reinforces connection. You climb the first slope of the hills, gripping stones for balance as the earth grows uneven beneath your feet. The rocks feel icy, their surfaces slick from condensation. Your breath grows faster as you climb. The ember bundle at your chest warms your hands, giving you the strength to continue. When you reach the top of the slope, you see one of the dark openings clearly. It sits low against the hillside, partially concealed by tangled roots. It looks shallow but promising. You lead your group toward it. Inside the entrance, the air feels slightly warmer than the wind outside. The walls curve inward gently, creating a protective bowl. The floor is layered with old leaves and patches of soil. It is not perfect, but it is shelter. You kneel and unwrap the ember bundle. The glowing coal inside has dimmed but still carries enough heat to ignite dry grass. You gather small sticks and place them in a loose cluster. With slow breaths, you coax the ember to life again. Smoke curls upward. A small flame appears, flickering like a fragile insect wing. Then it grows, catching the twigs one by one. The cave fills with an amber glow. Shadows stretch across the walls like ancient art brought to life. The warmth spreads outward, filling the space with a gentle comfort that contrasts sharply with the cold just outside. Your group settles around the fire. Some sit directly on the stone floor. Others crouch. A few lie down near the back of the cave, soaking in the preserved heat that clings to the rock. You watch the fire begin to build a steady rhythm. The flames sway softly. The embers pulse. The smoke rises in a thin spiral toward an opening in the cave's ceiling. You feed the fire slowly, learning again what it needs to thrive. A lesser-known idea from certain anthropologists suggests that early humans may have used the reflective surfaces of cave walls to observe the behavior of fire indirectly, learning without risking injury. As the light dances against the stone now, you understand how captivating and instructive those flickers must have been. You sit with the group as the fire burns. You feel the comfort settle deep into your chest. Outside the cave, the wind howls. Inside, the world feels still, warm, and safe. This balance will not last. Winter is coming closer. Each night grows colder, longer, harsher. But you have fire now, and fire gives you something the cold cannot take. A reason to endure. You glance at the glowing embers, feeling their strength mirror your own. The flames sway. The cave warms. Your group breathes in unison. For the first time in this unfolding winter, hope feels as real as the heat touching your skin. You wake inside the cave to a soft orange glow trembling across the stone walls. The fire has burned low during the night, leaving a bed of coals breathing in the dimness. Your body feels warmer than on previous mornings, and for a moment you simply lie still, listening to the gentle pops rising from the hearth. Outside the cave mouth, the world remains grey and cold. Frost clings to the grass just beyond the entrance, glittering faintly under the first light of dawn. You sit up slowly, stretching cramped legs. Your breath forms pale clouds in the cool air inside the cave, though they fade quickly near the warmth of the coals. Around you, others begin to stir. Some rub their hands together. Others curl closer to the fading heat before rising. The presence of the cave and the fire has changed the group's movements. There is less urgency in their waking, less fear. A rhythm is forming. You kneel beside the coals and gently sift a layer of ash aside. The embers beneath glow like small gems. You place a handful of dry grass over them and blow softly. The grass curls inward as smoke seeps through the fibers. A moment later, small flames unfurl. Their light grows slowly, casting longer shadows along the stone walls. With the fire revived, you look around the cave more carefully. The ceiling slopes in a smooth arc, shaped by centuries of weather and shifting stone. The walls hold tiny cracks filled with bits of mineral shimmer. The floor is uneven, but patches of dry earth make it comfortable enough. The wind echoes faintly at the entrance but cannot penetrate deeply into the shelter. Many archaeologists note that natural shelters like caves often served as temporary refuges rather than permanent homes for early humans. You can sense why. The cave is safe, but only for the moment. Food changes with the land. Water shifts with season. The wanderer's life never stays still. A hunter approaches the fire and warms his hands. He glances at the entrance as if measuring the day. You follow his gaze. The cold outside looks severe, with frost webbing across the rocks like delicate white lace. You feel the chill from a distance. Winter is nearing full strength. One of the younger members of the group brings over a bundle of sticks collected during the previous afternoon. Their hands are still numb from the cold, but their eyes show pride in gathering material for the fire. You take the sticks and sort them. Thick ones near the edge, thin ones in the center. You place a small branch across the hottest part of the coals. The fire responds with a gentle crackling sound, rising into steady flame. A perspective often shared in archaeological discussions is that fire allowed Homo erectus to settle for longer periods in places that would otherwise be too cold or dangerous. Watching the group now, you feel that truth in the ease of their movements. They rest. They repair tools. They observe the land from safety. You move toward the cave entrance to assess the surroundings. The air outside bites at your cheeks. You step into the open with cautious feet. The frost-covered ground crunches beneath you. The sun has not yet crested fully, leaving the land washed in pale silver light. The hills surrounding your shelter slope in smooth, rounded lines. Here and there, low shrubs cling to the earth, their leaves coated with crystalline ice. You spot distant movement near the hillside. A small herd of animals grazes quietly. Their breath rises in white clouds. They look leaner than they did weeks earlier. Winter affects them too. You return to the cave and motion to the group that the area is safe for now. They step into the cold one by one, gathering beside you. Together, you survey the land. The hunters exchange glances, deciding whether to track the herd. Food is scarce, but the cold makes chasing difficult. The group hesitates. A thought proposed by some researchers suggests that during colder seasons, early humans relied more heavily on scavenging than active hunting. The drop in temperature reduced stamina, and made long chases dangerous. You can feel that limitation in your own muscles. You know endurance will return once the day warms slightly. You leave the question of hunting behind for now and turn your attention back to the cave. The shelter will need strengthening if you intend to stay the night. You gather branches and dried plants from nearby bushes and bring them to the entrance. With the help of others, you arrange them to form a partial windbreak. It reduces the biting gusts that slip through the opening. Inside, the fire brightens. The group gathers around it again, sitting close, warming stiff limbs. You observe the way their faces soften near the flames. The flickering light brings a sense of calm, a sense of safety in shared warmth. You pick up a long branch with a charred end. You turn it in your hands, feeling the hardened tip. Several anthropologists believe that heat treatment of wood may have been one of the earliest experiments with fire-altering material. You sense how useful this hardened wood could be. Stronger, less likely to split. You tap the ground lightly with the tip, hearing a sharper sound than untreated branches make. A child nearby mimics you, picking up a small stick and placing it carefully near the flame. They watch as the end begins to char. You smile faintly, realizing how knowledge spreads even without structured teaching. What you learn becomes shared simply through observation. Your group begins preparing food again. The small stalks and roots they gathered earlier require effort to chew, but heating them makes the texture softer. You place a few near the fire, turning them slowly. Their scent changes as they warm, becoming sweeter and more appealing. One of the older members of the group grinds a root with a stone, producing a paste-like texture. They place it in a broad leaf and warm it gently. Curiosity stirs within you. The paste thickens into something easier to eat. You taste it. The warmth soothes your mouth and fills your stomach with comfort. Several scholars argue that changes in diet brought by fire played a significant role in human evolution. Softer food meant less energy spent chewing, more nutrients absorbed, and more time for social interaction. You feel that truth intimately as your group shares heated food in quiet harmony. The day moves forward. The frost begins to melt slowly, leaving glistening beads on the grass. You step outside again. The air is still cold, but the sunlight weakens its edge. The landscape seems gentler now that you know you can return to the fire at any moment. Your group spreads out around the cave to search for materials. Some collect stones, others gather branches. The hunters move with careful steps, observing the movement of animals. Each action feels connected to fire. The shelter circles around it. The routine forms around it. Even the search for food adapts to the presence of a reliable hearth. As the afternoon deepens, the wind strengthens again. You hurry back into the cave and warm your hands. You feel the sharp contrast between outside and inside. How quickly the cold tries to reclaim the world. But the fire resists. Flames climb higher, pushing back the chill. A thought sometimes raised in debates among specialists suggests that fire fundamentally altered the emotional experience of early humans. By shrinking the darkness and softening the cold, fire made it possible to feel calm, reflective, even contemplative. Sitting now by the hearth, listening to its steady breathing, you understand how that shift might have unfolded. Night approaches. You place larger pieces of wood around the fire to keep it burning longer. The group settles again into a circle around the hearth. They huddle close, bodies touching, sharing warmth. The flames dance along the cave walls, drawing patterns of light that seem almost alive. The fire crackles. The wind outside howls. Inside, the space glows softly with a sense of belonging. You lean back and let the heat wash over you. The cave shelter feels more complete now. It feels like a refuge crafted by ancient hands and guided by the steady rhythm of fire. You close your eyes briefly and breathe in the smoky air. Winter is still coming. The cold will grow harsher. The nights will stretch longer. But you know something now that you did not know before. Fire not only warms the body, it strengthens the spirit. The morning breaks slowly, as if the sun hesitates to rise in such cold. You open your eyes to a dim glow reflecting off the cave walls. the fire still breathing gently beside you. The warmth radiating from its coals makes waking less painful than it used to be. The cold outside remains sharp, but the fire softens the edge enough for you to stretch without wincing. Your group stirs in quiet waves. Some rub their arms. Others stand to stretch stiff legs. A soft murmur of movement fills the cave. The coals glow like tiny suns, scattered beneath a thin layer of ash. You kneel beside them and add a few dry twigs, watching as smoke curls upward. With a few patient breaths, the fire returns to life, steady and bright. The smell of warm embers mixes with the earthy scent of the cave floor. It reminds you of the meal from the night before, the softened roots and fragrant leaves warmed by the fire. You remember how the food tasted softer, how the warmth soothed your stomach. You reach for a small bundle of roots gathered yesterday and place them near the rekindled flames. A widely accepted finding in human evolution notes that cooking made nutrients easier to absorb, giving early humans more energy with less effort. You feel that extra strength now as you stand and move toward the cave entrance. The cold air hits you immediately, but it no longer steals your breath. You inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and step outside. The world is bright white with frost. The grass crunches beneath your feet. Ice glimmers on the rocks like thin sheets of glass. You survey the land, trying to sense the day's possibilities. The sky is clear, which means sunlight will eventually warm the plains, but for now, the morning remains brutally cold. Your group emerges one by one. Their breaths drift upward in pale clouds. They gather around you, glancing at the distant hills and the sparse vegetation. Food will be harder to find as winter deepens. The herds move differently now. The animals are wary and lean. Even the roots in the ground feel tougher. You lead the group down the slope, scanning the ground for any signs of movement or food. The soil crunches with each step. You see the faint tracks of small animals weaving across the frost. A set of deeper tracks catches your attention. Perhaps a young deer-like creature passed through recently. The hunters examine the tracks with practiced eyes, tracing the edges with their fingertips. One idea often highlighted in paleoanthropology is that fire may have changed the feeding habits of early humans by making previously unpalatable foods more accessible. As you walk, you find a cluster of stiff, fibrous plants. You kneel and pull one from the ground. The raw stem tastes bitter. You swallow only a small fragment, but you imagine how the taste might change if heated. The thought encourages you to gather more. Your group collects other items as well. Seeds from hardy shrubs, hard berries that cling stubbornly to frosted branches, a few tubers unearthed by sharp stones. The cold has toughened everything, but nothing is fully useless now that you can soften it with fire. You return to the cave with your findings. The warmth inside welcomes you. You place the gathered plants near the fire, watching the roots soften and the stems change color as they warm. The scent filling the cave is earthy and slightly sweet. Everyone watches closely, waiting for the moment when the food becomes easier to chew. As the meal cooks, one of the hunters tries something new. They place a piece of meat left over from a scavenged carcass onto a flat stone near the fire. Slowly, the meat sizzles. Fat drips onto the rock with a sharp hiss. A rich smell fills the cave, stronger and more inviting than any raw scent you have known. Your stomach tightens with hunger. You taste a small piece when it cools enough. It feels different, softer, warmer. Your teeth sink in more easily. Your entire body responds to the energy the food provides. You feel stronger within moments. Some specialists suggest that the shift to cooked meat significantly influenced the growth of early human brains. While you cannot name that idea here, you sense the power behind this discovery. Cooked food offers more than flavor. It offers survival. The group eats quietly. The fire crackles. The cave warms. You notice a few individuals leaning back with peaceful expressions, their bodies relaxing fully for the first time in days. A strange calm settles over you, not just from the food, but from this new way of living. When the meal ends, you return your attention to the fire. The embers glow in pulsing rhythms. The flames sway in slow arcs. You sense their patterns more clearly each day. You understand when the fire is strong enough to leave alone, when it needs more fuel, when it has burned too hot or too weak. A perspective often emphasized by researchers suggests that fire taught early humans the concept of patience. You feel that lesson now. Fire does not hurry. Fire demands slow hands, controlled breaths, steady choices. You add a large branch to the flames. It catches with a gentle hiss and brightens the entire cave. The others gather around, forming a circle. Their faces glow with the reflected light. Conversations remain wordless, but awareness passes from one person to another through glances and gestures. The fire becomes the heartbeat of the moment. Later in the day, the hunters decide to explore further into the hills. You watch them disappear into the frost-laced landscape. Others remain behind to protect the fire and gather more wood. You join them, stepping outside to collect fallen branches from the nearby slopes. Each branch breaks easily under your foot, dry enough to carry back. With the fire growing steadier, you begin arranging stones around its perimeter. You form a ring, creating a defined space for the flames. Another gathers small rocks and lines the inner edge. A thought often shared by experts proposes that controlled hearths marked a crucial shift in how early humans organized living spaces. You see that unfolding right here. The fire is no longer just a warm spot. It is a focal point, a gathering place, a hub of activity. When the hunters return with small scraps of meat from a scavenged kill, the fire becomes central again. They warm the meat by placing it on heated stones this time. The method works even better. No smoke stings their eyes. No flames lick their hands. The meal tastes richer, softer. A new pattern forms. Night begins to fall. The world outside dims into shades of blue and grey. You block some of the cold air with branches and stones at the cave entrance. The fire brightens as darkness grows. Shadows move across the walls in gentle waves, stretching and shrinking with each flicker. You sit close to the hearth, letting the heat seep into your bones. You look around at your companions. Their faces glow in the firelight. Their bodies are calmer, more relaxed, more unified. The firelight dances across the walls, illuminating the shelter with life. It pushes back the cold. It gathers the group into harmony. Winter closes in, but inside this cave, you feel protected. The fire is your shield, your teacher, your companion. And as you settle in for the night, you realize that it is shaping not just how you survive, but how you live. You wake once again to the gentle pulse of the hearth, its glow flickering across the cave walls like a living heartbeat guiding you through the dimness. The night has been long and bitterly cold. Frost still clings to the stones near the entrance. Outside, the land lies silent under a pale blanket of morning fog. You can feel the bite of winter even from your place beside the fire. But you also sense something far more powerful. Fire has turned this harsh world into a place you can inhabit, rather than simply endure. You rise slowly, warming your hands above the coals. The air carries a faint scent of charred wood and cooked roots from the previous night's meal. The familiar aroma brings an unexpected calm to your chest. Others in the group shift and stretch, their movements softened by the warmth. They wake more gently now, not with the frantic urgency that cold once demanded. Fire has granted them slower mornings. You feed the hearth a few thin branches. The flames climb upward with a quiet murmur. Their light chases shadows across the stone walls, revealing cracks, curves, and tiny ridges carved long before your ancestors ever stepped into this shelter. You step closer and run your fingertips along the rock. It is cool to the touch but warms slightly under the fire's reflected glow. You watch the shadows dance and imagine early humans from distant times gazing at similar patterns. Perhaps they found the same sense of comfort you feel now. Once the fire grows steady, you join the others outside. The cold greets you as soon as you step into the light. Your breath forms thick clouds. The frost crunches beneath your feet. A gust of wind sweeps across the hillside and sends a tremor through your muscles. You pull your wrap tighter and glance around. The landscape looks frozen, almost brittle. Winter has wrapped itself tightly across the land. You scan the area, watching for movement. The cold has driven many animals into hiding. Only a few small birds chirp weakly from frosted branches. The group fans out to search for food. You kneel and clear away a patch of icy soil, feeling for buried roots. The ground resists your fingers, stiff and unfriendly. But after some effort, you manage to extract a couple of tough tubers. They feel dense under your touch, difficult to bite raw but promising once warmed. A perspective often emphasized by researchers notes that the availability of warm food played a significant role in the survival of early humans during colder periods. You feel the truth of that as you tuck the frozen tubers under your arm and continue searching. The hunters venture farther from the cave. Their footprints leave crisp trails in the frost. You follow them at a distance, your senses sharpened. Winter has drawn predators closer to sheltered places. Hunger makes them bold. You do not want to meet a hungry cat or hyena without warning. The hunters stop suddenly. One kneels, examining something in the frosted dirt. You approach slowly. A set of tracks cuts across the ground. They are deep, wide, and unmistakably from a large predator. The hunters exchange serious glances. The freshness of the prints suggests the animal passed by only hours ago. An idea shared by several experienced field researchers suggests that fire may have served as a defensive tool long before it was used intentionally in hunting. You grip your ember bundle tightly, feeling the warmth inside. The presence of even a small ember feels reassuring in a world filled with creatures that can overpower you easily. The group retreats toward the cave with careful steps. When you finally return, the firelight spilling from the entrance feels like a lifeline. You revive the flame with a few pieces of dry bark. The warmth spreads outward, steadying your breath. Inside the shelter, you place the cold tubers near the fire. The transformation begins slowly. Frost melts. Steam rises faintly. The smell grows richer. Others bring their finds as well. Berries. Seeds. A handful of grubs collected from beneath a rotting stump. The variety may be small, but the fire turns them into a sustaining meal. As the food warms, one of the group members holds a sharpened wooden spear near the fire. You watch with interest as the tip darkens. The heat hardens it, making it stronger and more rigid. This subtle improvement could mean the difference between a failed hunt and a successful one. Observations like this suggest that early humans learned to use fire as a tool to modify materials long before they understood how deeply it would shape their future. Watching the spear harden now, you understand how these small experiments slowly changed the course of survival. You sit with the group around the fire, sharing the warm food. The tubers taste softer than they did when raw. Their bitterness fades. Your stomach welcomes the nourishment. A sense of strength flows from the meal into your limbs. After eating, your group rests briefly. The fire crackles, calming your mind. You listen to each pop and hiss. They echo gently in the enclosed space. The warmth soothes your aching muscles. You let your eyelids lower for a moment, absorbing the glow. Eventually, you rise and examine the cave more closely. The walls move with shifting shadows cast by the flames. They form shapes that seem to dance and twist. For a moment, you imagine the movements tell stories. Perhaps stories of danger, or of past hunts, or of ancient storms. A few archaeologists have suggested that flickering firelight might have helped early humans develop imagination and symbolic thinking. Looking now at the shifting patterns, you feel something stirring in your mind, a quiet sense of wonder. The hunters return later in the afternoon, carrying small scraps of meat from a scavenged animal. They place the meat carefully on heated stones. The sizzle echoes through the cave. The smell is rich, warm, irresistible. Hunger sharpens in your belly. As the food warms, one hunter performs a quick glance toward the entrance, ensuring no predator follows the scent. The firelight glints off their stone tool. You notice how the warmth of the fire has allowed them to work longer with their hands, even in the cold. The skin of their fingers is not as numb as before. This subtle shift supports a theory noted in human evolution studies. Fire allowed early humans to stay active even in colder seasons, giving them capabilities that other animals lacked. The ability to plan, cook, craft, and observe through winter gave your ancestors a small but powerful advantage. The group shares the warm meat, passing small pieces from hand to hand. The meal strengthens you. Your breath grows steadier. Your body regains warmth. Afterward, you step outside once more. The sun sits low in the sky, spreading long shadows across the frost. The cold deepens. The wind sharpens. You gather more dry branches from the hillside, aware that night will fall soon. Returning to the cave, you feed the fire again. The flame rises, restoring heat to the air. The group settles in a circle, leaning against one another, their faces illuminated in amber tones. You sit near the heart of the hearth, listening to the fire's steady rhythm. Sparks drift upward toward the cave ceiling, glowing briefly before fading. They remind you of tiny stars in a dark sky. A thought shared by a number of specialists proposes that night fires may have encouraged early forms of social interaction, bonding individuals in ways that shaped cooperation. Watching the group now, you see how the fire pulls everyone closer. It creates a shared center, a shared peace. Outside, the sky darkens. The cold thickens. The world grows silent. Inside the cave, the fire breathes, steady and warm. You close your eyes, feeling its heat ease the tightness in your chest. For the first time in your memory, winter feels like something you can face with confidence. You lean closer to the flame, knowing it will be your ally in the nights to come. With fire by your side, even the cruelest winter begins to feel conquerable. The night fades slowly, and when you open your eyes, the cave glows with the soft remnants of firelight. A few embers still pulse beneath the ash like little eyes watching over the group. You stretch your legs, gently flexing stiff muscles. The cold outside will be severe, but the memory of warmth lingering in the cave helps you rise without rushing. You breathe in the smoky air and feel a sense of quiet anticipation. Today feels like a day for stories, though your people have no formal words yet, only gestures, murmurs, and glances filled with meaning. You revive the embers with practiced care, placing thin twigs over the glowing core. Smoke drifts upward in threads. With a few patient breaths, the flame returns, small at first, then bright enough to push shadows back from the walls. The others gather slowly. Their faces glow softly in the expanding light. Your group begins preparing food, grinding roots, warming hard berries, softening meat. The familiar sizzling sound on hot stones fills the cave with a rich scent. The fire becomes a quiet center of activity, each person contributing in some small way. You feel the rhythm of cooperation forming, shaped by shared warmth and shared hunger. When the meal is done, something unusual happens. Instead of dispersing quickly to gather supplies or hunt, your group remains seated around the hearth. They settle in with calm breaths, leaning back against the curved stone walls. Their eyes drift from one face to another, as if waiting for something to unfold. A perspective often discussed among researchers suggests that firelight encouraged early humans to stay awake longer after sunset, giving them time to observe one another, reflect on the day, and develop early forms of storytelling through gesture and sound. You sense that moment arriving now. The oldest member of the group lifts a charred stick and begins tracing shapes in the air. Soft grunts escape their throat, rising and falling like a gentle rhythm. You watch, captivated. They tilt their head and shift their shoulders, mimicking the movement of something stalking through grass. A few members lean closer, eyes widening. The gestures grow more dramatic. A swipe of the hand, a tilt forward, a sudden gasp. Gradually, you understand. They are reenacting the moment yesterday when the hunters found the predator tracks in the frost. The older member recreates the cautious steps, the deep impressions in the soil, the moment of quiet dread. The group reacts with low murmurs, huffed breaths, tense shoulders. Even without structured language, the meaning spreads clearly from one person to another. A thought sometimes proposed in studies of early human culture is that these shared enactments may have helped shape rudimentary planning and emotional bonding. You feel that bond growing as you watch your companions respond, their faces reflecting the flickering firelight. One child imitates the older storyteller, crouching low and making a soft growling sound. The group laughs in quiet bursts, the first sound of joy you have heard in days. The child glances at the fire, as if expecting praise from it too. Their boldness sparks a warm feeling in your chest. Encouraged, another adult begins a different set of gestures. They lift their hands to mimic cracking thunder, then sweep their fingers in zigzags across the air, imitating lightning from the storm that brought the first fire. Their voice hums with rising intensity. The group watches closely, memories stirring. You nod slowly, remembering the flash of light and the smell of smoke carried on the wind. The firelight grows brighter as the logs shift. Flames climb higher, casting long shadows against the walls that ripple and dance. Those shadows take on shapes of their own, twisting into imagined creatures or distant landscapes. The group quiets. You stare at the flickering stone, mesmerized. Some experts suggest that firelight may have sparked the earliest forms of imagination, helping humans envision things not physically present. The dancing shadows on the cave walls seem to prove that possibility. You see shapes in the light, the curve of an antelope's back, the outline of a predator rising from the tall grass, even the ghost of the storm that birthed your fire. You lean back, letting the warmth seep into your skin. The crackle of burning wood becomes its own melody. A soft tapping of stone echoes from one corner of the cave where someone prepares a new tool. The rhythmic scraping syncs with the crackling fire. It feels almost like music. As you drift into this calm, one more member of the group speaks. Their voice is quiet, low, almost musical. They use a series of rising and falling tones that remind you of the sound the wind made on the coldest night. They repeat the sounds, altering them slightly. The rest of the group listens intently. Some respond with similar tones. A number of scholars believe that wordless vocal play around the fire may have laid the groundwork for early language. Listening to this exchange now, you feel the possibility stirring. Rhythm, tone, shared attention. The fire ties all of these together in a single moment. You join the soft vocalization, letting your breath roll into a gentle hum. Another hum answers you. A third overlaps yours. Soon the cave fills with a low, resonant chorus. It is not singing. It is not speaking. It is something in between. Something ancient, something raw, something deeply human. When the sound fades, the group sits in comfortable silence, warmed by fire and each other's presence. The child curls beside their mother, eyes drifting towards sleep. The hunters lean back against the wall, muscles relaxing after days of tension. The older member gazes at the flames, their eyes reflecting tiny points of light. You notice how the fire has become more than a tool. It is a stage for shared experience, a canvas for movement, sound, memory, and imagination. It is the beginning of something larger than survival. Outside the cave, a faint call echoes through the winter air. The group tenses for a moment, listening carefully. You hear the cry again. It is distant, belonging to an animal far away. The tension eases. The fire has created a buffer of safety that changes the way you respond to threats. Not with panic, but with alertness. You feed the flame a final piece of wood. It rises in response, steady and warm. Night falls completely, turning the world outside into a cold ocean of darkness. But inside the cave, light continues, warmth continues, connection continues. You sit with your companions, sharing breath, memory, sound, and gentle gestures. For the first time, storytelling has entered the world. You lean closer to the hearth and feel the truth of that settle into your bones. Fire has given you more than survival. It has given you a place to reflect, imagine, remember, and share. And through those moments of shared warmth, humanity begins to grow inward as well as outward. You close your eyes, letting the fire's gentle rhythm guide you. Tonight, the flames carry stories, and tomorrow, they will carry you through winter again. The morning light creeps into the cave in thin, pale ribbons, brushing softly across your eyelids. You wake with a slow inhale, feeling the lingering warmth from the fire at your side. Last night's stories still echo softly in your mind, like shadows that continue moving even after the flames grow still. The cave feels peaceful, but as you rise to your feet, you sense the day calling you forward. Your group has rested long enough. New ground awaits, and winter presses from behind like an unseen hand urging you onward. You step outside and breathe in sharply. The cold air carries a metallic edge that stings your nostrils. Frost covers everything in a delicate sheet of white, making the world look as if it has been dusted with powdered stone. The sun lifts slowly from the horizon, warming nothing yet, only brightening the world's grey surface. You rub your arms and feel the wind slip through your wrap like water through cracks. The group gathers behind you. Some stretch their legs, others adjust their fur coverings. A few cradle bits of leftover food warmed briefly by the fire. The hunters look to the ridge beyond the cave, scanning for danger. With the memory of last night's stories still fresh in your thoughts, you notice that even their silent gestures seem more expressive this morning. The leader nods. It is time to move. You wrap the surviving ember in dry grass again, protecting its faint glow. The warmth in your hands is a quiet reassurance. You tuck the bundle close to your chest as the group descends into the basin below the hills. The land stretches wide before you, rippled with patches of forest, tall grass, and distant ridges. You sense that this journey will test how well you carry fire into new places. One observation often made by researchers is that Homo erectus was remarkable for long migrations across varied environments. You feel the truth of that as your group begins another slow march, each step marking an ongoing quest for food, warmth, and shelter. You cross a shallow stream, its surface glazed with thin ice that cracks delicately under each footfall. The water flowing beneath chills your skin, but you grit your teeth and push forward. The sun begins to warm the land in small patches, though the wind still carries a cold whisper. As you walk, you begin to notice subtle changes in the terrain. The ground dips and rises in gentle waves, leading your group toward a shoreline of dense shrubs. A faint scent of animals grazes the air. Perhaps a herd passed through recently. The hunters fan out, studying the frost for tracks. They kneel, tracing lines in the soil with careful fingers. The prints are hoof-shaped, light but numerous. A herd of grazing animals moved eastward at dawn. The tracks are fresh enough to follow. Hope stirs inside your chest. You continue walking, staying behind the hunters. The landscape shifts again as you cross through a scattered forest of thin trees. Their branches are bare, rattling lightly in the wind. As sunlight filters through them, the ground glitters with frost. Everything feels still except for the sound of your breathing and the rhythmic crunch beneath your feet. One intriguing idea from several anthropologists suggests that carrying fire allowed early humans to cross rivers and ridges more safely, enabling them to travel farther than most predators dared. Holding the ember bundle now, you feel safer stepping into unknown terrain. The prints lead your group along a forested slope where the land dips sharply downward. A distant thump echoes through the trees. You freeze. Another thump follows, deeper and heavier. You look to the hunters for guidance. They tilt their heads, listening intently. The sound repeats. A dull, rhythmic thud. Something large is moving. You crouch behind a tree, keeping the ember bundle close. The hunters slowly inch forward, gripping their spears. A moment later, a massive shape emerges in the distance. A large, bison-like creature plows through frost-covered grass, its breath rising in thick clouds. Its dark fur ripples with every step. It is searching for food, unaware of your group. You remain still. The creature could provide days of nourishment, but the danger is great. The hunters exchange glances. They shake their heads. Winter has made the animal too strong and too desperate. Attacking it would risk injury, perhaps death. Instead, your group retreats quietly, stepping backward until the creature disappears from sight. You exhale slowly, feeling tension melt from your shoulders. Survival sometimes means choosing patience over bravery. The fire will help you endure until a safer opportunity appears. As the morning turns into afternoon, you continue your migration. The land begins to flatten, and distant hills soften into gentle slopes. The wind loses some of its bite. You reach an open stretch of grassland where pockets of sunlight warm your feet. The change in temperature brings relief to your skin. At last you pause near a cluster of large stones that form a partial circle. The stones stand upright, as if pushed into place by ancient forces. Their surfaces are darkened by age. This spot feels sheltered, a perfect place to rest and perhaps eat. You kneel and unwrap your ember bundle. The ember glows weakly, but it is still alive. You place it carefully in a small nest of sticks and blow gently. A thin wisp of smoke rises. With steady breaths, the ember grows, touching the smallest twigs. Flames bloom in delicate spirals, rising with a soft hiss. Your group gathers around the new fire. Their shoulders drop as warmth spreads. Some sit cross-legged, others kneel. A few lie back and rest against the stones. One interpretation often mentioned by field researchers suggests that migration routes taken by early humans were shaped partly by the need to find places where fire could be sheltered from wind. Watching the flames ignite in this stone circle, you understand how landscape and fire work together. You warm a few tubers and berries again. The scent of heated plants rises, calming your stomach. But as you prepare the food, your eyes drift to the stones behind you. Their tall shapes create a barrier from the wind. They also cast shifting shadows that sway gently with the flickering firelight. The movement of the shadows fascinates you. They seem to mimic running herds, rising predators, bending trees, even changing moods. You watch the patterns ripple and pulse across the stones. A view sometimes suggested by cognitive scientists proposes that firelight may have encouraged early humans to imagine movement, memory, and meaning in shifting shadows, fueling symbolic thought. Watching the shadows now, you can feel the beginnings of imagination stirring again, just as it did in the cave. As the fire warms your hands, one of the hunters begins to mimic an animal's gait. Their footsteps fall in uneven beats, imitating the heavy, bison-like creature you encountered. The group reacts with quiet amusement. Someone else joins in, mimicking the rustle of grass under small hooves. A child taps a stone lightly, adding rhythm. You smile. Even without formal language, your group is learning to communicate with more nuance. Fire encourages you to slow down, to observe, to share moments that would otherwise vanish into darkness. Later, as the sun dips low, you tend the fire carefully. You add thicker branches that will burn longer into the evening. The flames cast a warm circle across the grass, inviting calm. The group relaxes. The last light of day fades. The wind softens into a gentle murmur. You lift your gaze to the sky. The first stars appear, trembling above the darkening horizon. Their cold light contrasts sharply with the warmth around you. You wrap your arms around your knees and lean closer to the fire. Migration continues tomorrow. New challenges will rise. Winter is far from over. But for tonight, fire keeps the cold at a respectful distance. It keeps the group together in a bubble of warmth and shared breath. It gives the night a softer edge. You close your eyes, letting the fire's glow seep into your thoughts. Every journey feels different now. Every step feels guided. The horizon stretches endlessly ahead, but you are no longer wandering blindly. Fire lights the path. The morning greets you with a cold so sharp it feels carved from stone. Frost blankets the grass around your sleeping place, shimmering in the faint early light. You rise slowly, joints stiff but spirit steady. The fire from last night has faded into a bed of glowing embers. You crouch beside them and gently brush away ash, revealing the red core pulsing gently like the last heartbeat of the night. With careful hands, you add a few dried twigs. Smoke rises first, thin and shy. Then the fire awakens, stretching upward in quiet orange curls. Your group gathers around the warmth. Some rub their hands together, sighing softly as sensation returns to numb fingers. Others quietly chew bits of leftover food or adjust the furs wrapped around their shoulders. The flames light their faces with a sleepy gold, pulling them into wakefulness. Beyond the circle, the world still clings to winter's grip, but inside the glow you feel space to breathe. Once the fire stabilizes, you begin preparing the ember bundle for travel. You wrap a glowing coal inside layers of bark and dried grass, tucking it carefully against your body. This now familiar ritual reminds you that every journey depends on holding fire close. Without it, winter would swallow your group whole. You begin walking as the sun climbs higher. Today brings a steady climb up a long ridge, its slope layered with stones and dry soil. The air tastes colder here, and the wind presses harder against your face. You adjust your grip on the ember bundle and steady your breath. Each step requires more strength, more balance. But as you climb, something catches your eye. A thin plume of steam drifting from a crack between two large boulders. You approach cautiously and touch the stone. It is warm, warmer than the air around it. Beneath the surface lies some hidden pocket of heat. A memory comes to you of how your ancestors sometimes slept near sun-warmed rocks to keep the night's chill away. One researcher's intriguing proposal suggests that early humans occasionally sought out naturally heated stones or shallow geothermal pockets to support survival. Touching this warm surface now, you feel the possibility clearly. The land itself can help you endure. You linger only a moment, then continue following your group up the ridge. As you climb higher, the wind whistles between the rocks, carrying the faint scent of distant snow. Your skin prickles at the cold, but the ember bundle warms your hands with a subtle glow that steadies your steps. At the ridge top, the hunters stop abruptly. One raises a hand for silence. You follow their gaze and see a distant herd in the valley below. They move slowly, their breath drifting like white smoke into the morning air. The animals look wary but not starving, a promising sign. The hunters discuss silently through gestures. They consider the angle of the slope, the wind direction, the distance. But the terrain is risky. The valley is wide and open, giving the animals a clear escape path. The group decides against the chase for now. Survival sometimes demands restraint, even when hunger tugs at your belly. You turn toward the forest ahead. Its trees stand tall, their bare branches reaching skyward. The forest feels different today. The air carries the scent of sap and bark. The ground is littered with fallen twigs and damp leaves. As you walk into the shadows, you sense the world growing quieter. The wind softens. The cold becomes less biting. You feel sheltered beneath the canopy. Inside the forest, you stumble upon a remarkable sight. A fallen tree lies across a patch of bare soil, its trunk split open by age. The inner wood is dry and brittle. When you touch it, a piece breaks away easily. The fragment is light, almost hollow. You examine it curiously. If placed near fire, this wood might smolder gently or ignite faster than heavier logs. You collect a few pieces and carry them with care. Nearby, one member of the group kneels beside a cluster of stones. They choose a smooth, flat piece and begin scraping it against a shard of harder rock. Sparks do not appear, but small flakes break away, shaping the stone into a sharper edge. The repetitive sound fills the quiet forest. A common view among archaeologists suggests that early humans learned to modify tools using both heat and pressure. Watching the hunter now, you notice something new. They pause, hold the stone near the fire you briefly set down, and warm it gently. When they resume scraping, the stone flakes more predictably. The edge forms more cleanly. Fire has changed the behavior of the material itself. You lean closer. fascinated. Heat alters stone. Heat alters wood. Heat alters food. Each lesson expands your understanding of fire, not as a single-purpose force, but as a partner shaping your world. You continue walking until you reach a clearing. The ground here is covered with scattered branches and thick grass. Sunlight filters through the treetops in soft beams. You set down the ember bundle and prepare a new fire. You feed the glowing coal with small pieces of the brittle tree core you found earlier. It catches quickly, burning brighter than expected. A soft sense of accomplishment warms your chest. Your group sits around the new fire, sharing breath and warmth. The hunters test the hardened tips of their spears again. You watch the wood shimmer slightly near the flame, the heat strengthening its structure. A few individuals sharpen stone tools, their hands guided by earlier lessons. Someone experiments with placing a smooth pebble near the coals. The heat slowly changes its color. You wonder how many such discoveries will emerge simply because fire invites curiosity. You warm a few tubers on flat stones. The scent rises into the air, earthy and inviting. The group gathers eagerly as you pass small pieces around. The food softens quickly. You chew with ease, letting the warmth spread through your body. A gentle sound draws your attention. The child, who often mimics the adults, is tapping a piece of wood lightly against another. They tilt their head curiously, listening to the sound change as the wood warms. Another taps a stone in response, creating a simple rhythm. The forest echoes softly. It feels like the beginnings of something creative, something expressive. Some specialists believe that rhythmic play around fire may have encouraged early forms of coordinated behavior and communication. Watching these simple patterns now, you sense how play and learning blend seamlessly in the warmth of firelight. You sit back and watch the group. Their faces glow softly. Their eyes reflect curiosity, connection, and quiet determination. Fire has given them confidence to attempt things they would not have tried before. It offers safety in the unknown, structure in chaos, and possibility in limitation. As afternoon wanes, the air grows colder again. Shadows stretch long across the clearing. You gather the last few embers carefully, wrapping them in fresh layers of bark and grass. Your group prepares to move once more. The forest opens ahead, the trees thinning as you approach the outer edge. Beyond the forest lies another wide expanse. More hills, more valleys, more unknowns. But now, with fire humming quietly in your hands, the unknown feels less frightening. It feels like something you can shape. You walk into the open land again, your steps steady, your breath calm, the ember bundle warming your palms with a patient, quiet strength. The journey continues. The world grows colder. But with fire-altering stone, wood, food, and thought itself, you carry more than warmth. You carry the beginnings of mastery. The land ahead stretches wide and pale beneath a cold sky, and as you continue your journey with the ember bundle tucked close, a new question begins humming quietly in your mind. You have learned how to carry fire, how to shield it, how to coax it back to life. But another possibility lingers at the edges of your awareness. What if fire could be born, not just borrowed? What if lightning and luck were not the only paths to warmth? Your group moves steadily across the frost-covered ground. Every breath you exhale forms a small cloud that drifts upward, dissolving into the crisp morning air. The cold is sharper today, more insistent. It presses against your face and nestles into your bones with a kind of lingering hunger. Even wrapped in furs, you feel the chill nipping beneath the layers. You tighten your grip on the ember bundle, grateful for the faint warmth radiating from inside. As you walk, the landscape begins to change. The earth becomes rockier. Small stones scatter across the path, glinting weakly in the pale sunlight. The wind whistles over the rocks, carrying a thin, crisp tone that echoes faintly. The hunters pause often, scanning the terrain. You sense their tension. Winter makes predators bolder. A hungry creature may see your group as an opportunity. One of the hunters lifts a hand and points toward a narrow ravine carved into the hillside. At first, it looks empty. Then, you spot something intriguing. A tangle of dry branches and twisted vines has gathered where the wind funnels through. The area is sheltered enough that the brush remains completely dry despite yesterday's thin snowfall. You kneel beside the brush, examining it more closely. The branches are thin, rigid, and fragile, perfect for catching flame. But your ember bundle still holds enough heat to start a new fire. The idea of exploring something different starts to take shape. As you unwrap the bundle, you notice a piece of hard, dark stone half buried beneath the brush. You dig around it, freeing the stone from the soil. It is smooth on one side and jagged on the other. When you knock it gently against another rock, a small chip breaks away. A tiny spark flickers in the morning air, bright for the briefest moment before vanishing. You freeze. Your breath catches. Spark. You strike the stones again, harder this time. Another spark leaps out, small and fleeting but real. It is gone before it can touch the dry brush, but the sight sends a tremor through your hands. You strike again. The spark appears like a tiny star jumping between the two rocks. A number of specialists studying human origins suggest that early humans may have begun exploring natural sparks from stone long before they mastered fire-making. Watching sparks leap from your own hands now, you sense the truth in that speculation. This moment feels like the first heartbeat of a great discovery. You continue experimenting, adjusting your grip, changing angles, striking the stones together in different ways. Some sparks appear, some do not. Your group gathers around, their eyes growing wide with curiosity. They watch your hands closely, their breath forming pale rings in the cold air. But sparks alone are not enough. You know you need something more sensitive than the dry brush, something that will catch the spark the moment it falls. You glance around the ravine and spot a patch of fuzzy plant material clinging to a low shrub. It looks like the fluffy remains of a seed pod. You gather the delicate fibers, rolling them gently between your fingers. You hold the fibers near the stones, heart steady, breath slow. The group leans closer. You strike. A spark falls onto the fibers. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, the faintest tendril of smoke rises. Your chest tightens. Another spark lands. The smoke grows stronger. You blow softly. A tiny red dot appears. It glows like a single ember from a dying fire, fragile and faint. You blow again, gently. The dot brightens. The smoke thickens. The fibers curl inward as the heat spreads. A small flame blossoms. Soft at first, then brighter. Your group lets out a low ripple of surprised murmurs. Some lean closer, their faces illuminated by the new flame. Others step back, uncertain whether to trust what they have just witnessed. You kneel in silence, heart pounding, mesmerized by what has happened. Fire born from stone. Not from lightning, not from storms, not from the remains of a wildfire. From your own hands. One interpretation that many experts debate is whether Homo erectus truly mastered intentional fire-making or mostly relied on maintaining existing embers. Watching the flame flicker to life now, you can feel how that debate remains unresolved. This spark feels like a new step, not mastery yet, but something real, something closer. You feed the flame carefully with thin twigs. It grows stronger, warming the cold air around your fingertips. The group gathers closer, forming a protective circle around the newborn fire. Their breath warms the space. Their bodies lean in. Their eyes shine. The ravine shields the flame from the wind. You place larger twigs at an angle, building a small structure that encourages the flames to climb. The fire catches willingly. It brightens, sending waves of heat into the chilly morning. A new energy flows through the group, not just relief but a pulse of something sharper, confidence, innovation, possibility. They watch your hands as you lift the stones again, recognizing the importance of what just occurred. You strike the stones once more. Sparks fly. Some fall harmlessly onto the soil, but the idea itself is alive now. You see it in the way others reach for similar stones embedded in the earth. You see it in the way they mimic your motions, learning through action. You place more dry brush around the flame. The fire grows strong enough to warm the group fully. The cold that once clung to your skin begins to loosen. You stretch your hands toward the fire, feeling its strength seep into you. A sense of accomplishment settles deep inside your chest. This moment will echo through thousands of generations, though you cannot yet know how far-reaching it will be. But you feel the beginnings of something immense. The group lingers beside the fire as the day brightens. Winter still surrounds you, sharp and relentless, but your hands have created warmth from cold stone. You rise slowly, holding the fire-making stones. The weight of possibility sits solidly in your palms. You look at the flame you have coaxed into being, and you understand, with a quiet swell of certainty, that today marks a turning point. Not just for survival, but for the very shape of human progress. The fire you created earlier still burns gently at the heart of the ravine, its warmth spreading outward in soft waves that hold the cold at bay. You sit near it, warming your hands while your group adjusts to this new reality. There is no lightning today, no wildfire, no borrowed ember carried through miles of wind and frost. The flames rise because your hands struck two stones together, because you saw a spark, followed its whisper, and coaxed it into life. The thought alone fills your chest with a bright, quiet energy. Your companions gather around you. Some hold the fire-making stones you used, tracing the edges with curious fingers. Others pick up similar stones from the ground and examine them with expressions full of wonder. The air carries a new feeling, not just warmth but possibility. You sense that your group has stepped across an invisible threshold. The morning sun climbs slowly, dull and pale behind winter clouds. Even with daylight returning, the air stays sharp enough to sting the tips of your ears. Winter has not softened, but fire softens winter. You rise and look toward the open plain ahead. You see the shape of a gentle slope, a patch of thin forest, and beyond it, a rocky rise that could offer shelter for the night. Your group must move, even with this new fire. The animals will not come to you. The land will not feed you unless you keep searching. Fire helps, but it does not replace the ancient need to stay in motion. Your group prepares the ember bundle as usual, yet something feels different now. You tuck the ember close, but you also hold the stones that created it. Their weight feels promising. Your fingers curl around them with a sense of purpose. The group begins walking. Your steps crunch over frost and scattered gravel. The air carries the scent of frozen grass and cold earth. Each breath feels like a thin blade sliding into your lungs, reminding you why fire matters more each passing day. You follow the slope down into a shallow valley. The terrain changes subtly. The ground softens. Tufts of brown grass poke through the frost. A few birds flutter between bare branches, searching for seeds. Your group moves with caution. Even a starving predator can cause a deadly surprise in this season. As you skirt the edge of a stand of trees, one hunter gestures to a patch of disturbed soil. Tracks, many of them. You crouch and brush the frost aside with gentle fingers. The impressions reveal small hooves, likely a young herd scrambling through earlier that morning. Their tracks crossed the valley and led into the forest ahead. You study them with interest, noticing something beyond the shape. The prints show hesitation, uneven spacing. As if the herd had paused suddenly, then bolted. Something startled them. A predator, perhaps. The hunters exchange glances. They grip their spears more tightly. According to a commonly described scenario in studies of ancient life patterns, early humans often followed herds, not just to hunt but to find safer paths across regions. You feel a quiet confidence as you follow the trail now. The herd's fear may guide you toward useful information. You continue through the forest. Tall, bare trees tower above you. Their thin branches rattle gently in the wind, creating a soft, constant whisper. Light filters through in pale beams that barely reach the frozen ground. The forest feels still but not empty. Suddenly, A low growl rumbles from somewhere behind a cluster of rocks. Your heart leaps. The hunters react instantly, stepping forward in a protective arc. You hold your breath. The growl fades. Then silence. You wait. Every muscle in your body tenses. The silence continues. Perhaps the predator has moved on, or perhaps it is watching from the shadows. One of the hunters brings a burning stick from the ember bundle, holding it high. The small flame dances at the end of the branch, casting swaying patches of light around the trees. The forest reacts. Birds flutter. Leaves tremble. The predator does not approach. This moment reflects an idea supported by many researchers. Fire naturally repels predators, not through battle, but through intimidation. Animals understand flame in ways that words cannot capture. Fire speaks a language written into their instincts. You press forward, keeping close to the group. Eventually, the forest thins. You emerge into open land again. Distant hills roll across the horizon, softened by frost. Your group heads toward a rocky rise, promising safety for the next rest. As you walk, you feel the fire-making stones heavy in your hand. A new thought emerges slowly, like the glow of an ember waking under ash. Fire can be born from the world around you, not only preserved, not only carried, created. The idea reshapes your sense of control. When you reach the rise, the group gathers stones into a small circle and unpacks the ember bundle. You kneel and unwrap the glowing coal. But before you feed it air, curiosity tugs at you. You lift the stones again. The group watches. You strike the stones. A spark leaps into the air. It vanishes instantly. You strike again. Another spark. You place a small pile of dry plant fibers on the ground. You aim the spark toward them. You strike once more. This time the spark lands and smolders faintly. You lean close. Blow softly. The smolder brightens. The group leans in. You blow again. This time, the flame appears. Soft, gentle, alive. The hunters exchange murmurs of surprise. A child claps lightly in excitement. Someone touches your shoulder with a look of deep respect. You feel a swell of pride inside your chest. Not loud or boastful, but steady like the fire itself. Fire from stone is still unreliable and difficult. Not every strike makes a spark. Not every spark makes a flame. But the idea has taken root in your group. They will practice, experiment, improve. You sit beside the growing fire and watch the flames rise with a calm sense of awe. You understand now why some theories argue that the earliest sparks of fire-making may have emerged not through deliberate planning, but through persistent curiosity. A stray spark caught your eye earlier. You followed it. You listened to what it offered. And now you shape fire with intent. The group gathers in a familiar circle. Someone warms a piece of meat. Someone softens a tough root. Someone sharpens tools in the firelight. Patterns settle into place, strengthened by the new possibility of creating fire wherever dry materials and stone can be found. As the sky darkens and winter winds gather again, the fire continues to glow. You sit close, feeling its warmth seep into your skin. For the first time, fire is not only borrowed, it is learned. It is something your hands can invite into the world. It is the beginning of mastery that will echo through countless generations. And as sparks rise into the twilight, drifting toward the cold sky, you feel the power of that transformation settle deeply inside you. The fire burns steadily through the early morning, its warmth creating a small pocket of comfort within the cold landscape. You sit near the hearth, rubbing the sleep from your eyes, listening to the wood pop softly as it settles into embers. The air outside the stone circle feels fierce. A sharp wind sweeps across the frozen ground, lifting thin plumes of frost into the air. Winter is no longer creeping toward you. It presses fully against your world now, shaping every choice, every movement, every breath. Your group rises slowly, each person stretching stiff arms and legs. Their faces show the strain of days spent in cold so deep it pulls at bones. But you also see something stronger in their eyes. Fire has changed them. There is resolve where fear once lived. There is expectation where doubt once lingered. The group begins preparing for the day with quiet efficiency. You feed the fire a few last pieces of wood, letting the flames rise. Then you wrap a hot ember in fresh layers of bark and dry reeds. The warmth pulses softly against your palms. Beside you, the fire-making stones lie ready. Their edges look familiar, shaped by repeated use. You slip them into a pouch of woven fibers, feeling the weight of future fires resting near your side. Your group travels eastward. Every step crunches through frost. Your breath escapes in clouds. You hold the ember bundle close to your chest, shielding it from sudden gusts. The hunters lead the way, scanning the horizon. A few others gather branches or examine frozen plants for signs of edible life. As you cross a wide stretch of open land, the cold sinks deeper, stealing warmth from your fingertips. You adjust the ember bundle and quicken your pace. The land feels harsher than yesterday. The trees look more brittle. The sky carries the heavy weight of approaching snowfall. One observation frequently noted by those who study ancient climates is that cold seasons may have lasted longer and hit harder during the age of Homo erectus. You feel that intensity now. The wind cuts through your wrap like shards of ice. Your group spots a cluster of fallen trees ahead. Beneath the twisted trunks lies a small hollow. You move toward it, hoping to find shelter from the wind. As you crouch beneath the fallen wood, you discover something unexpected. The soil here is slightly softer, warmer. You touch it with your fingertips. Heat rises gently from beneath, faint but real. You glance at the hunters. They touch the ground too and nod. This is a rare gift. The earth is giving warmth without flame. Perhaps volcanic activity lies deep below. Perhaps sunlight once heated the hidden stone and trapped that heat in the cave-like pocket beneath the logs. Whatever the cause, it offers temporary relief. Your group gathers inside the hollow to warm hands and feet. You unwrap the ember bundle and check the glow. It still pulses faintly. You add a bit of dry grass, letting it breathe. The warmth from the ground and the ember combine, easing the icy tension in your muscles. After a short rest, you move on. The land changes yet again as the group reaches the base of a rocky slope. The wind grows louder, howling through narrow gaps between stones. You climb carefully, gripping rough surfaces that scrape your palms. Snow begins drifting from the sky, falling as light flakes that melt upon touching your skin. At the top of the slope, you pause. Below lies a valley shrouded in thin mist. Small dark shapes move near the edges of a sparse forest. Animals, a handful of them. Their movements are slow and cautious. The hunters exchange a hopeful glance. Food. You descend into the valley with renewed determination. As you draw closer, you recognize the shapes more clearly. They are deer-like creatures, lean but alive, scraping at frozen soil in search of hidden roots. The hunters approach quietly, circling the herd with practiced stealth. You stay behind, clutching your tools and ember bundle, heart pounding with anticipation. The hunters coordinate silently with gestures, selecting which animal to target. They move slowly, inching closer in synchronized steps. Then, with a sudden burst of motion, the chase begins. The hunters sprint, spears raised. The animals panic, scattering in desperate leaps. You watch breathlessly as two hunters isolate one creature, driving it toward a cluster of rocks. The deer-like animal slips, scrambling for footing. A spear strikes. The creature falls. Your group gathers quickly. The air fills with heavy breathing and soft murmurs. The kill is not large, but in winter it means survival. A concept often highlighted by researchers suggests that cold climates encouraged early humans to rely more heavily on teamwork during hunts. Watching the coordinated effort just now, you feel that truth settle into your bones. Cooperation is not optional in this world. It is life. The group works swiftly. They carve meat from the carcass, storing portions in thick leaves and woven fibers. One member retrieves your fire-making stones and prepares a hearth. Dry twigs, broken bark, and fluffy plant fibers are arranged carefully. You kneel and strike the stones. Sparks leap. One lands on the fibers. You blow. A thin wisp of smoke emerges. Another strike. Another spark. The fibers glow. Fire returns, steady and warm. You cook small pieces of meat first. The smell rises, rich and comforting. Steam curls upward from the sizzling flesh. The group gathers close, warming cold hands and hungry bellies. The first bite sends warmth down your throat and into your chest. Cooked meat, more tender now, fills you with strength that raw food never offered. You chew slowly, savoring every moment. After eating, you gather bones and sticks near the fire. Some bones you place close to the heat. You notice how they crack more easily once warmed. Tools may form from them with less effort. You study the changes carefully. A viewpoint shared by certain experts suggests that fire may have inspired early humans to experiment more boldly with materials. You feel that experimental urge rising again as you observe bone, wood, and stone responding differently to warmth. When the meal is finished, your group rests. The fire burns brightly, pushing away the winter air. The hunters share quiet gestures, mapping the land around them. The older members hum softly in rhythm with the crackling flames. The child taps a stick lightly on a stone, creating a gentle beat. As the afternoon deepens, snow falls more heavily. The group decides to seek shelter. You extinguish the fire carefully, saving the coal inside the bundle. Then you climb the slope again, heading back toward the rocky rise spotted earlier. Snow crunches beneath your feet. Frost gathers on your wrap. Your breath grows thin. At the top of the hill, you find a shallow overhang large enough for the group. Wind cannot reach the back wall. This will do. You unpack the ember bundle and strike the stones once more. Sparks fall. Smoke curls. Fire rises. The group leans close. Winter roars outside. But inside this shelter, the fire holds strong. It brings heat. It brings food. It brings courage. And with each spark your hands create, your connection to fire deepens. The world may be freezing, but you are learning to reshape it. The wind howls across the rocky overhang through the night, but inside your shelter the fire burns steady and patient. You wake to its soft glow touching your eyelids, warming your cheeks before you even open your eyes. The world outside feels hostile. The cold presses with a force that could silence breath if not for the small circle of heat your group has created. You sit up slowly, stretching stiff arms, brushing frost from your hair where condensation froze in the night. The embers remain bright. You coax them gently, adding thin twigs and blowing softly until flames unfurl again. Their return feels like a greeting, a reassurance, a quiet reminder that even in the harshest season, warmth can be called back with steady hands. The group wakes in quiet waves. Some rub frost from their shoulders, others hold their palms close to the fire, absorbing heat with grateful sighs. The child curls into their parent's side, still wrapped in sleepiness, eyelids heavy with dreams shaped by crackling flames and drifting snow. You prepare a small piece of meat from yesterday's hunt, placing it on a warm stone near the fire. The smell rises slowly, rich and comforting. Hunger sharpens around the circle. You share the food in small pieces, each bite sending warmth into the body like a ripple of strength. Cooked meat feels like a miracle each time it touches your tongue. Once the meal ends, the hunters rise and survey the world outside the shelter. Snow blankets, everything now, soft and powdery, broken only by the faint tracks of animals searching desperately for food. The air tastes colder. Even the sunlight seems weak as it spills faintly across the snow, unable to warm the world it touches. Your group begins gathering branches near the overhang. You scrape snow away from the base of the rocky wall and discover a patch of dry wood hidden beneath. You gather it eagerly. Every scrap of fuel matters. Every stick means another hour of warmth. As you carry wood back to the fire, you notice something fascinating. On the surface of one fallen branch, frost melts instantly when held near the flame. Droplets slide down the bark, leaving patches of exposed surface. A thought enters your mind. If the fire can melt frost so quickly, perhaps it can melt other things hidden beneath winter's grip. You step outside and collect a small handful of frozen berries, clinging stubbornly to a bush. Their skins feel like stone beneath your fingers. You bring them near the fire and place them on a warm stone. Slowly, the frost releases them. The berries soften. Their color deepens. When you taste one, its flavor surprises you. Not sweet, not bright, but edible. The fire has unlocked something inside the fruit. This small discovery fills you with a quiet thrill. Winter does not take everything. Some foods can be coaxed back to life. A few members of your group gather around the berries. They test the softened fruit for themselves. Their eyes brighten with curiosity. One hunter taps you lightly on the arm, recognizing the importance of the moment. An insight shared by some specialists suggests that during harsh seasons, early humans relied heavily on ingenuity to expand what the land could provide. By warming frozen plants, your group is learning how to stretch resources thin without losing strength. As the morning progresses, the hunters prepare to search for fresh tracks. Before they leave, one picks up a small branch from the fire and studies its charred tip. They tap it against a rock, testing its firmness. Fire has hardened it again. A sturdy tool. You watch them carry it into the snow with quiet pride. Left behind with several members of the group, you tend the fire carefully. The flames sway gently, their light reflected in the snow outside. You sit close, listening to the faint hiss each time a bit of melted water drips from your furs. The child imitates your earlier movement, holding a berry near the fire and waiting patiently for it to soften. They squeal softly when it changes texture. You smile, watching new understanding spark behind young eyes. Knowledge is no longer kept by chance. It passes through hands, through gestures, through shared experience. After some time, one of the older members begins using the fire to warm stones. They place several flat rocks near the coals until they grow hot. Then they set these stones in a circle, carefully shaping a warmer bed to sit on. The idea is simple, but clever. Heat stored in stone lasts long after flames fade. A few archaeologists suggest that early humans may have used heated rocks for warmth or for simple cooking long before they perfected fire use techniques. Watching these stones glow faintly now, you feel that idea resonating. As midday approaches, snow begins falling again. The flakes drift down gently, dusting your hair and shoulders. The sky turns pale grey. The hunters return soon after. Their faces show strain and disappointment. No large animals, only small tracks and signs of scavengers. Food will not come easily today. Your group gathers around the fire again. You warm more frozen berries and roots. The heat softens them enough to chew. It is not a feast, but it is nourishment. And each warm bite settles into your stomach like a small promise of endurance. Later, one member of the group retrieves a bone from the earlier hunt and holds it near the flame. You watch as they shape the softened material into a sharper point using a stone tool. The bone bends slightly under heat, becoming easier to carve. A new kind of tool emerges in their hands. They grin faintly, showing pride in their work. A perspective shared by certain researchers suggests that fire facilitated innovations in early toolmaking by altering the properties of materials. Seeing that process unfold in front of you feels like witnessing the birth of a quiet revolution. As the afternoon light fades, the group prepares to settle for the evening. The fire grows stronger with thicker branches. Sparks drift upward, spiraling into the snowy air. The wind presses against the overhang but cannot enter fully. The fire shields you, guides you, holds winter at a respectful distance. You sit close to the flames, warming your palms. The group forms a circle again. Some hum softly, letting their voices rise and fall with the crackling of burning wood. The child taps their simple rhythm with two sticks. Shadows ripple across the stone wall, forming shapes that spark new ideas in your mind. Night deepens. Snow falls harder. The outside world blurs into a sheet of white. But inside this small shelter, wrapped in firelight and breath shared with your companions, you feel something strong and steady rising in your chest. Winter is fierce. But fire, in your hands now, is fiercer still. It offers warmth, food, tools, and the courage to keep moving through cold that once felt undefeatable. You lean closer to the flames, watching them sway. You feel the future forming quietly in their dance. The storm eases by morning, leaving the landscape coated in fresh snow that glitters faintly under the rising sun. You step outside the rocky overhang and inhale sharply as icy air fills your chest. The world feels cleaner, quieter, almost fragile beneath the thick blanket of white. Each footstep you take sinks softly, absorbing sound. The land has become a canvas of silence. Behind you, the fire glows with renewed strength. You had tended it carefully through the night, feeding it small sticks whenever the flames sank too low. The embers now pulse with steady light, warming the shelter's interior despite the cold pressing from outside. Your group wakes slowly, rubbing frost from their faces and stretching stiff arms. Their breath clouds the air in soft grey puffs, drifting upward like tiny ghosts. Your hands hover above the fire. The warmth spreads through your fingers, easing the ache left by yesterday's cold. You unwrap the ember bundle, checking its glow. You gather new dry material and prepare to carry it again. Even though you can now create sparks with stone, you know that fire still demands protection. Sparks alone cannot promise survival. Embers remain your heartstone through winter. Once the group finishes eating a modest breakfast of warmed berries and softened roots, the hunters gather their spears. Their movements are cautious but determined. Snow makes tracking easier, but the cold also slows the body and stiffens muscles. You know that danger hides more easily in winter. Predators follow hunger as surely as you do. Your group starts moving again. The world feels heavier under the snow. Each step requires more strength. Your legs lift slowly, pushing through drifts that reach nearly to your knees in some places. As you walk, your scent blends with the cold air. Your breath forms a fog around your face. The wind thins it instantly. You notice how fire has changed even the way you travel. The ember bundle warms your chest as you hold it close. You walk upright, shoulders set, spirit steadier. Before fire, you might have curled into yourself against the cold. Now you face the wind directly, trusting the glow you carry. Down the slope, you spot a frozen stream. A thin crust of ice lines its edges, but the center still flows beneath. You kneel and break the ice carefully, cupping cold water in your hands. The shock of it stings your palms, but you drink anyway. The cold settles into your stomach and clears your mind. Beside you, another member scoops water too quickly and gasps as the freeze bites their fingers. You guide their hands closer to your ember bundle, letting the warmth chase the sting away. Their eyes soften in gratitude. As you continue onward, a shape catches your eye near a cluster of trees. At first it looks like a small rock mound. Then it shifts slightly. You freeze. The hunters step forward. The mound rises slowly, revealing the form of a large, fur-covered creature lying beneath the snow. It lifts its head, sniffs the air, and fixes its eyes on your group. A predator. It is lean, desperate, and watching. The hunters lift their spears. The group tenses. Your own breath holds still in your throat as the predator takes a single step forward, snow falling from its back. Its shoulders ripple. You pull a burning branch from your ember bundle. The flame flickers in the wind but holds. You raise it slightly, letting the light illuminate your face. The predator hesitates. You take one step forward, brandishing the fire. The creature's eyes flash in alarm. It snarls softly, then takes a step back. The hunters shift forward as well, forming a wide boundary of spears and firelight. The predator grows uncertain. It lowers its head and backs away slowly. It snarls once more, then turns and disappears into the trees. A perspective often shared by those who study early human behavior suggests that fire fundamentally shifted the balance between hunter and hunted. Watching the predator retreat now, you feel that shift in your bones. Fire transforms fear into power. Your group breathes out in relief. Shoulders relax slightly. The hunters share glances of quiet pride. You place the burning stick gently into the snow, extinguishing it, then return the ember bundle to your chest. As you continue walking, the snow deepens. The sky clouds over again, and the light dims. Winter seems determined to test the limits of endurance. But your group keeps moving, drawn by the shape of a distant cliff face where black stone breaks through the white landscape. Closer now, you see something remarkable near its base, a shallow recess carved into the cliffside, like a tooth missing from a giant's jaw, a natural shelter, wide enough for your group, protected from the wind. Its roof overhead looks sturdy, and the floor inside appears mostly dry. You climb inside and check the space. The ground slopes gently inward, forming a pocket where heat could settle. The hunters check for signs of animals. None appear. This place feels promising. You kneel in the recess and prepare a new fire. The snow outside makes gathering kindling difficult, but you find thin branches beneath the roots of the cliff. They remain dry enough to burn. You arrange them carefully and unwrap the ember bundle once more. The glowing coal inside pulses like a tiny sun. You blow softly. The coal brightens. Smoke curls. The branches catch. Flame returns. Your group moves close, letting warmth thaw aching limbs. A few members shake melting snow from their furs. The fire spreads light across the stone walls, revealing tiny flecks of mineral shimmer that reflect like stars trapped in rock. Inside this shelter, you begin preparing a meal. A small amount of meat remains from the last hunt. You slice it into thin strips and place them on heated stones. The sizzling sound fills the shelter. Steam rises. You and the others chew slowly, savoring the fleeting warmth spreading through your core. After eating, one member of the group begins scraping a piece of wood against a warm stone. The heat has softened the outer bark. They shape it into a curved hook. You watch the process with interest. Such a shape could help pull roots from frozen soil. It could gather plants more efficiently than bare hands. A thought often raised by experts suggests that as fire became a common part of survival, new types of tools emerged to match the changing needs of daily life. You see that happening now in front of you. The hook is simple but effective. Fire has made it possible. The child sits near the fire, drawing lines in the snow-dusted dirt with a charred stick. Their patterns loop and spiral. They seem random, yet familiar. Perhaps the beginnings of symbols. Perhaps only play. But the firelight reflects in their eyes with the same spark you felt when the first ember came alive in your hands. Outside, the wind grows heavier. Snow thickens. But inside the recess, the fire's light glows boldly. Your group huddles together, leaning into the warmth. The flames paint the stone ceiling with soft, shifting colors. The sound of crackling wood becomes a steady rhythm that lulls your breath. Winter rages beyond the cliff, but you remain untouched within this glowing shelter. You sit close to the fire, feeling its heat settle deeply into your bones. You listen to the wind outside, distant and powerless. With each spark that rises, drifting upward into the dim shelter ceiling, you feel a quiet certainty blooming inside your chest. You are no longer surviving winter by accident. You are meeting it with intention. And fire is the reason why. The morning arrives wrapped in a thick silence, as if the world outside your shelter has been muffled beneath layers of snow. When you open your eyes, the fire beside you has burned down to a soft bed of glowing red coals, their faint light beating like a slow, steady heart. You stretch your limbs carefully. The air inside the rock recess is cold, but nowhere near as brutal as what lies waiting beyond the entrance. You kneel beside the embers and feed them a few thin sticks. Smoke curls upward in gentle spirals. A spark grows, then another. Soon, flame climbs softly over the twigs, casting a warm glow across the stone walls. The fire greets you like an old friend. Your group wakes one by one, each person exhaling pale clouds in the chilly air. They gather near the fire, their shoulders drawn in at first, then relaxing as the warmth spreads. Even the child wakes without fuss, drawn immediately toward the glowing hearth with sleepy eyes and a soft grunt of comfort. Once the fire stabilizes, the group begins preparing to move again. Winter's grip remains strong. The snowfall from the previous day lies deep across the landscape, and you know the next few days may be the harshest yet. Movement is slow. Energy drains quickly. Food becomes harder to find. But your group has learned to carry warmth with steady hands and stronger hearts. You wrap a bright ember in fresh bark and grass, securing the precious glow. The hunters sharpen their tools. Some crack small bones near the fire, warming them for easier splitting. Inside the bone lies marrow, rich and dense, a valuable source of strength in a world that gives so little freely. The group shares the marrow sparingly, each bite sending warmth into hollow spaces of hunger. Once ready, you step out of the shelter. The cold hits instantly, sharp, fierce. The wind moves across the snow in swirling lines that sting the skin. But the sun glints above the horizon, casting faint gold light over the world. Even in freezing air, sunlight lifts the spirit. You move together through the deep snow. Each step sinks heavily, leaving deep impressions behind you. Your legs burn with effort. The ember bundle warms your chest slightly whenever you press it close, giving small bursts of courage. As you cross the open field, you notice strange patterns in the snow, deep grooves, a series of parallel tracks that cut through the drifts in long, smooth lines. At first, you do not understand. Then you see large hoofprints beside them and realize what caused the marks. A herd dragged their hooves while struggling through deep snow. They passed here not long ago. The hunters study the tracks with sharp eyes. The spacing shows exhaustion. The herd is moving slowly, vulnerable, a rare opportunity in winter. The group follows the trail, stepping in the deep grooves left behind to conserve energy. A concept often discussed by experts highlights how early humans may have used environmental clues like this to track prey over long distances. Following another creature's struggle through snow gives clear insight into its direction and condition. You feel this logic naturally as you walk in the herd's path. After some time, the scent of cold earth mixes with something faint and metallic. You smell it before you see the shape lying ahead. An animal, large, still, snow piled lightly across its body. The hunters approach carefully. You stay back, holding the ember bundle steady. The animal is already dead. Perhaps it collapsed from exhaustion. Perhaps predators frightened it during the night. Whatever the reason, the cold preserved its body. This discovery feels like an unexpected blessing. Meat like this could sustain your group for days if the weather allows. The hunters check the surrounding area first. No predator tracks nearby. Safe enough for now. Your group sets to work immediately. You help gather dry grass beneath nearby trees, clearing snow to find fuel for a fire. The hunters carve sections of meat, placing some onto large stones. You blow gently onto the ember you carry, coaxing it to life. Flames grow again, fed by the dry grass and small branches. The fire shines bright against the white landscape. The smell of cooking meat rises quickly, sharp and savory. Steam lifts from the heated surface. Your stomach tightens with hunger. The group gathers close, sharing the warmth and the scent. As you cook the first portion of meat, one hunter brings a long bone and places it near the flames. They roll it slowly, heating it until it cracks. Inside lies marrow, soft and rich. Another hunter takes strips of raw hide and warms them before scraping with a sharp stone, making them more pliable for crafting. A few specialists suggest that winter may have driven early humans to experiment intensely with new materials. Cold makes necessity a sharp teacher. Bone, hide, wood, stone, All must be shaped to serve survival. Watching your group now, you see how winter pushes creativity to the surface. While the meat cooks, another member collects snow in a shallow stone bowl and places it near the fire. Slowly, the snow melts into water. This simple act feels important. Fire turns the frozen world back into something drinkable, something life-giving. You help carry pieces of food to those who need it most. The child, the older members, the ones whose breath trembles with fatigue. Everyone eats slowly, warming their bodies from within. As afternoon begins fading into grey light, the group gathers the remaining meat into layers of hide, wrapping it tightly for travel. The cold will preserve it. You feel the relief spreading through the group like gentle firelight. Hunger will not haunt you tonight. Before leaving, one member of the group experiments with something new. They take a thin strip of hide and stretch it near the fire, heating it gently. The hide softens, becoming more elastic. They twist it into a thin cord. Testing its strength, they pull at both ends. It holds firm. You watch with fascination. A hide cord could bind tools, tie shelters, carry bundles. Another subtle invention born from fire's influence. A viewpoint expressed by some anthropologists suggests that fire accelerated the pace of innovation by making materials behave differently under heat. Seeing this cord now, you feel the truth of that idea. The sun lowers behind distant hills, turning the sky pale pink. You prepare another ember bundle, placing a fresh, glowing coal inside. The firelight reflects in the snow around you, turning the white landscape into swirling shades of orange and gold. Your group begins moving again. The snow deepens, the cold strengthens, the sky darkens. But you feel something powerful within you. The ability to track opportunity in the snow, the knowledge to warm frozen food, the skill to melt water, the capacity to soften and shape materials. Fire is no longer just a source of heat. It has become a companion in thought, turning harsh lands into a place you can navigate with purpose. As night approaches, you press the ember bundle to your chest and continue walking through winter's silence. Each breath rises into the cold air like a quiet vow. You will endure. And fire walks with you. The night settles over the snow-covered land with a heaviness that presses against your skin, soaking into every breath you take. By the time your group finds a cluster of low boulders jutting from the frozen ground, the sky has darkened into a deep slate grey, and the first stars flicker faintly beyond drifting clouds. You can feel exhaustion tugging at your steps. The cold slips under your furs, searching for the warmth your body is trying to conserve. You gather close to the rocks, their shapes forming a partial barrier against the fierce wind. The hunters help clear snow from a small depression in the center. You kneel carefully, unwrap the ember bundle, and reveal the glowing coal resting inside its cocoon of dry grass. Even though the ember is small, its warmth touches your palms like a living heartbeat. You arrange thin twigs in a small nest and lower the ember into it. You blow steadily. Smoke rises. The twigs darken. Then, with a soft exhale, flame blossoms. The group exhales quietly in unison. The fire grows into full light, pushing back the chill that clung to your faces and clothes. Everyone gathers around it. Shoulders drop. Breath deepens. The fire feels like a miracle once again, even after so many nights you have relied on it. Its presence never loses meaning. You place a few stones near the flames to warm them. The heat makes their surfaces shine faintly. The hunters unwrap the preserved meat from earlier and lay strips across the hot stones. Steam rises slowly, carrying a rich scent that stirs hunger in every stomach. While the food cooks, you take in the scene around you. Snow drifts lazily down, each flake catching amber highlights as it falls into the fire's glow. Beyond the circle of light, the world looks soft and featureless, just endless white stretching into the night. The sound of wind becomes a distant murmur, softened by the rocks around you. Some researchers propose that winter nights shaped the emotional lives of early humans by forcing groups into tight, shared spaces with fire as the center. Watching your group huddled close, sharing breath and body heat, you sense how these nights strengthen bonds in ways the warm seasons never could. When the meat is ready, you distribute small pieces. The warmth floods your mouth. The taste feels deeper after being cooked on hot stones instead of on sticks. One hunter hums in approval. A few others nod with sleepy smiles. Even in such difficult times, fire lets the group find small moments of comfort. After eating, you notice one of the older members experimenting with a new idea. They place a flat stone into the fire until it becomes nearly too hot to touch. Then they set a handful of snow on top of it. Instead of melting quickly like before, the snow hisses and evaporates slowly, creating a thin stream of steam. You watch the rising vapor with fascination. This moment aligns with a thought discussed in some scientific circles. Early humans may have discovered new processes, like boiling or steaming, by simply observing how materials behaved near fire. You feel that idea take shape here. The steam carries a soft rhythm as it drifts upward into the cold air. Curiosity spreads. Another member holds a frozen tuber near the steaming stone. The heat helps soften it faster than placing it directly on the flame. Someone else warms a piece of hide over the steam, testing how it bends. The hide grows more flexible. A new reaction, a new lesson. You watch each discovery unfold with quiet satisfaction. Fire not only warms food and body, it gives birth to new ideas, each one fragile at first, then stronger as more hands test it and more minds learn from it. As the night deepens, the wind rises again. Snow begins falling harder, stitching the sky and ground together into one unbroken sheet of white. But inside your circle of warm light, the fire dances brightly, refusing to let the darkness swallow your spirits. You add a few thicker branches to the flames. Sparks leap upward, spiraling briefly before fading into the cold air. The fire grows larger, filling the space with a warm hum. Shadows sway across the rocks behind you, creating tall shapes that move with each flicker. The child begins to draw again in the snow, using a charred stick. Tonight their patterns look more deliberate. Lines cross, circles join, shapes repeat. You watch the emerging designs with quiet interest. They mean nothing specific yet, but they show intention, focus, memory, perhaps even early versions of symbols. A number of specialists believe that drawing and mark-making may have grown from moments just like this, where flickering firelight encouraged the mind to capture shapes and motions observed during the day. Watching the child trace careful lines, you feel that possibility stirring gently. You lean back against one of the stones, letting its warmed surface rest against your spine. The fire's glow softens your breathing. You listen to the group's blended sounds, soft murmurs, the occasional tapping of wood on stone, the slow chewing of someone finishing their last bite. These sounds feel safe, woven into the heartbeat of the fire. Later, as sleepiness begins to touch your eyes, you notice one of the hunters sharpening their spear. They hold the wooden tip close to the flame, rotating it slowly. The warmth hardens the point. The fire not only feeds the body but sharpens tools, secures defenses, and expands what your group can accomplish. A commonly accepted idea in human evolution notes that fire-based crafting likely played a role in shaping sharper minds. The patience it takes to warm wood carefully, to observe how it changes, invites thoughtfulness. You feel that patience settling over your group now. When the spear is finished, the hunter sets it aside and sits quietly near the flame. Everyone grows still. The fire cracks gently, rising and falling in steady rhythm. Snow continues its silent descent. You wrap your arms around your knees, feeling the fire's warmth soak into your bones. You look at your companions tired, cold, determined, and rising always to meet the winter. Your group has grown closer than ever. Fire-drawn stories, steam-softened food, warmth-carved tools each day brings new understanding shaped by flame. You close your eyes briefly and breathe in the smoky, earthy air. Outside the fire's reach, winter remains merciless. But inside this circle of heat and human breath, you feel something deep and steady. You are no longer fragile creatures scattered across frozen grass. You are people who shape fire, and in return, fire shapes you. Tonight, the snow cannot take that from you. Dawn arrives slowly, sliding pale light across the snowy horizon, as if hesitant to disturb the quiet formed around your sleeping group. You stir awake to the soft warmth of the fire's embers, glowing through a thin layer of ash. The cold inside the stone ring bites at your cheeks, but compared to the world outside, this space feels almost gentle. You inhale deeply. Smoke, frost, and the faint scent of last night's cooked meat still linger in the air. You kneel and brush aside the ash with practiced care. The embers beneath still breathe. You add dry grass, then twigs, then larger branches. The flame returns obediently, blooming upward in slow, elegant curls. Its light touches the faces of those just waking. Shoulders relax, eyes half open. Body heat gathers in the small space as everyone pulls closer to the fire, as if to greet an old companion. Breakfast is simple. Softened tubers, strips of dried meat warmed on hot stones, melted snow poured into cupped hands. Each mouthful holds a kind of hope, easing the tightness in your stomach left by winter's long hunger. Once fed, your group prepares to move once again. The hunters check their hardened spears, pressing the tips against packed snow to test their strength. Others adjust bundles of supplies. You wrap a glowing ember in fresh bark and dried plant fiber, reinforcing the bundle until the coal's warmth radiates gently through the layers. You slide the fire-making stones into your pouch. Their weight feels familiar, necessary. The world beyond your shelter looks harsh but breathtaking. Snow stretches in every direction like an endless ocean of white. A soft mist floats low across the ground as sunlight tries to warm the land from behind a thin veil of clouds. You can feel the cold slide into your bones as soon as you step outside. Your group begins its trek across the snow-packed plain. The effort required to move through the drifts is exhausting. Your legs burn. Breath escapes in strained bursts. But the ember pressed against your chest gives courage, a reminder that warmth is always within reach. Along the way, you spot scattered shapes in the snow. Twigs, half-buried grass, stones. Everything looks muted beneath winter's hand. But among these shapes, something catches your eye. A piece of dark stone protruding from the snow near a fallen branch. You kneel and brush away the frost, revealing a stone split cleanly down one side. You tap it lightly with another rock. A sharp edge glints in the pale light. The hunters gather around, interested. They examine the stone's shape, the clean edge, the way it fractures. One hunter strikes it against another rock, and small flakes break away in predictable patterns. A view often mentioned by scholars suggests that cold environments may have encouraged experimentation with stone, since winter forced early humans to explore new methods for creating reliable tools. Watching this interaction now, you see the evidence forming at your feet. The stone breaks cleanly, predictably. You feel the promise of future blades inside each shard. One member heats a piece of stone near the fire you briefly kindle to melt snow for water. When warmed, the stone flakes differently more easily, with smoother edges. You notice the shift immediately. Heat softens the resistance. The hunter carves a sharper point than you have seen before. Fire does not simply warm, it transforms. Satisfied with the new tool, the group sets off again. The snow begins to thin as you approach a series of low hills. The wind grows quieter. The air feels slightly less hostile. Perhaps a sheltered valley lies beyond. You crest the first hill and pause. Below, a wide depression cuts through the land, dotted with frozen shrubs and narrow trickles of water beneath cracked ice. Steam rises faintly from one corner of the valley. At first, you think your eyes deceive you. Then you see the source clearly. A patch of ground warmed by the earth itself. A warm pocket in the middle of winter. You descend quickly. The hunters check for predators, then signal that the area is safe. You kneel beside the warm ground. Steam rises from thin cracks. When you place your hand over it, gentle heat touches your skin. The surprise sends a wave of relief across your chest. Your group settles into this natural warmth with visible gratitude. You unwrap the ember bundle and revive the fire quickly, feeding it with dry material gathered from beneath exposed shrubs. The fire grows strong in this sheltered place, its heat combining with the warmth rising from the earth. The group begins to rest, melt snow, and prepare food once again. One of the hunters places a thin strip of meat directly on the warm stone beside the steam vent. It cooks slowly, evenly, without needing to be held over open flame. Others experiment with the technique. Soon, a small system forms: stones for steaming, stones for drying, stones for warming. Some researchers suggest that early humans living near geothermal pockets may have discovered novel cooking methods long before mastering full fire-based cuisine. Watching your group now, you feel the truth of that idea take shape. Steam softens roots faster than flame. Meat cooks without burning. Water warms more quickly. The child laughs softly as steam curls around their hands. They splash melted snow onto a hot stone and jump at the hissing sound that follows. You smile. Even small reactions become lessons. As afternoon deepens, one group member places a basket of woven plant fibers near the steam vent. The warm moisture softens the fibers, making them easier to bend and braid. You watch as they shape the fibers into a tighter, stronger weave. A simple act, yet profoundly useful. A few studies hint that fire and heat access may have supported the beginnings of more refined crafting skills. Watching this new weaving technique emerge, you sense how necessity and curiosity intertwine. Your group continues to discover. One person warms a curved bone in the steam before scraping it clean. Another reheats a spear tip and reshapes it more effectively. A third uses stones heated by the fire to thaw a deeply frozen section of root that would otherwise be impossible to eat. Every task becomes easier. Every problem finds a new solution. As the sky shifts toward evening, the valley glows faintly under the setting sun. The fire burns strong. Steam rises in constant ribbons of white. Your group settles close together, sharing food and warmth and the comfort of shared discovery. The firelight paints faces with gentle amber. Shadows ripple across the ground as flames dance. The sound of crackling wood blends with the soft hiss of steam. You close your eyes, breathing slowly, fully, deeply. The cold remains outside your circle of warmth, held back by the power of fire and the hidden heat of the earth. You open your eyes again, gaze at your companions, and feel something profound taking root. Fire is no longer just survival. It is skill, it is knowledge, it is change. Tonight, winter does not feel like an enemy. It feels like a teacher, and fire is the language through which you learn. The night passes softly in the warm valley, and when morning arrives, you wake to a strange and gentle sensation. Instead of the usual sting of frost biting your cheeks, you feel the subtle warmth rising from the earth below. Steam still drifts from thin cracks in the ground, weaving through the early light like pale ribbons. The fire you built last night has burned low, leaving only a soft glow beneath the ashes. You sit up slowly, stretching your arms as the quiet breath of the world greets you. You revive the fire first. Thin sticks, gentle breaths, patient coaxing. The embers brighten, then flames rise, dancing more freely than in colder shelters. The warmth from both fire and earth creates a small oasis within the frozen land. Your companions gather around, blinking sleep from their eyes as they settle into the comfort of the hearth. Breakfast is simple but welcome. Softened roots, a few precious strips of dried meat, water warmed by placing snow on the hot stones near the steam vent. Every bite spreads heat through your chest, making the morning feel less heavy. But you know you cannot stay here for long. Winter is still fierce, and though this valley offers warmth, it provides little else. Food sources remain unpredictable. The hunters prepare their tools with steady hands, tightening bindings on spears and testing the sharpness of heated stone blades. You wrap a fresh ember bundle for travel and tuck the fire-making stones securely at your side. Your group sets out, climbing the gentle slope that leads out of the valley. The warm ground gives way quickly to hard snow. The air loses its softness. Cold presses forward again, gripping your skin and settling in your joints. Yet you keep moving. Fire has taught you resilience, and that resilience anchors your steps. As you walk across the plain, you notice animal tracks crossing your path. Small, delicate impressions likely from a rodent or rabbit-like creature, fresh enough to follow. The hunters kneel and examine the tracks carefully, their eyes narrow with excitement. A potential meal. You follow the trail slowly, moving in silence. The tracks lead toward a cluster of bushes partially buried under snow. One hunter inches forward, spear raised. You wait tensely. A rustling sound. The hunter lunges. A quick motion, a small cry, then stillness. The animal is small, but in winter nothing is insignificant. The hunters clean it swiftly while you gather twigs and dried grass. You strike the stones together. A spark leaps. Another. Eventually one lands in the dried fibers, glowing faintly. With steady breaths, you coax a small flame to life. Your group cooks the tiny catch with gratitude. Meat sizzles on hot stones, releasing a savory scent that floats through the crisp air. Everyone eats in small bites, savoring the warmth it brings. With renewed energy, you continue onward. The land ahead rises into a series of low ridges. Snow blows across the peaks like fine powder. You grip your ember bundle tightly, feeling its heat pulse against your chest. The wind sharpens as you climb, forcing you to lean forward. Your legs ache, but you persist. Near the top of the ridge, something unusual catches your attention. A patch of snow looks strangely smooth, almost polished. You step closer and brush away a thin layer, revealing ice underneath thicker and clearer than any you've seen before. Beneath the ice lies a pool of still water. A thin crack in one corner suggests a spring feeds it from below, preventing it from freezing completely solid. This discovery excites the group. Water this accessible during winter is rare. You chip at the ice with a stone tool, creating a small opening. You scoop water into cupped hands. It is icy cold but drinkable. You drink slowly, letting it refresh you. Someone dips a piece of hide into the water, then warms it by the fire you briefly kindle. The hide becomes pliable and easier to shape. You watch as the fibers stretch more evenly. This technique could be useful. Water, fire, and warmth working together to change the world around you. A few researchers propose that early humans learned to combine elements intentionally: heat, water, stone, hide, to create better tools and more effective survival strategies. Watching these small experiments unfold, you feel the spark of that understanding. As you descend the ridge, the wind calms slightly. The land opens into rolling hills dotted with clusters of shrubs. You notice birds circling overhead, their shadows fleeting across the snow. Perhaps something lies ahead: water, shelter, maybe even larger animals. Your group moves with purpose. Each step feels steadier now. Fire has shaped your days into patterns of learning, adapting, testing. Winter remains brutal, but you no longer face it blindly. You reach a grove of thin, leafless trees. Their branches arch overhead like reaching arms. Beneath them, the snow is thinner. The hunters search quietly for tracks. You examine fallen branches, testing which ones might serve as fuel. A few are dry enough to carry. You collect them. As you pause, you notice the child picking up a piece of charcoal from the last fire. They draw carefully on a flat rock, making marks that resemble the shapes of animal tracks seen earlier. The carefully repeated lines impress you. The child points to the marks, and then to the hunter's real tracks in the snow, showing clear connection. A possibility sometimes mentioned by scholars suggests that simple marking behaviors may have emerged long before symbolic art. Watching the child's imitation now, you see how observation and firelight stories might have sparked the beginnings of memory preserved through markings. You sit with the group near a tree trunk, resting briefly. The fire crackles softly nearby, its glow turning the grove into a small island of warmth. Snow continues falling beyond the trees, but the branches shield you from the worst of it. Eventually the hunters rise. Movement resumes. You continue deeper into the grove, searching for food, shelter, and any hint of warmth in the cold. The day grows dim. The sky shifts to muted grey. You sense evening approaching. The group finds a cluster of large stones naturally stacked into a shallow enclosure. It feels safe enough. You unwrap your ember bundle and build a new fire, starting it with twigs and dried grass. The flames rise, bright and reassuring. Your group settles around them once more, shoulders touching, breath mingling with smoke. Someone hums softly in rhythm with the fire's crackling. Another taps two sticks together, creating an earnest beat that echoes faintly through the grove. As night falls, you warm stones, cook small pieces of food, soften hide, and share stories made from gestures and sounds. Shadows dance across the trees, forming shapes that seem alive. You listen. You watch. You learn. The cold winds remain outside the fire's reach, swirling harmlessly beyond the circle of light. Inside, you feel safe, connected, certain of one truth. Fire continues to shape your world. And with each lesson, each spark, each glowing ember pressed against your chest, you grow stronger, wiser, and more certain that winter can be met with courage. Tomorrow, new challenges will rise. But tonight, the fire belongs to you. The morning begins beneath a soft hush, as if the snow-covered world is holding its breath. You wake to the faint glow of the fire, a low halo of orange pulsing beneath the ash. Your companions stir slowly, shoulders stretch, fingers flex. The cold presses against the edges of your small shelter, but inside your circle of warmth, you feel a calm steadiness settle through your chest. You kneel over the embers, coaxing them back to life. A few dry twigs, a breath drawn slowly, released gently. Light rises, flame blooms. The group gathers close as the fire stretches upward, filling the clearing with soft gold. Even after months of winter, the simple return of flame still sends a quiet shiver of gratitude through the group. Breakfast is deliberate but peaceful. Thawed roots, a handful of softened berries found yesterday, meat warmed carefully on hot stones. Each bite brings warmth into your chest, easing the stiffness lingering in your muscles. The hunters clean their tools afterward, sharpening spear points over heated stones and tightening bindings softened by steam the night before. You prepare the ember bundle as usual, wrapping a coal in fresh bark and dry fibers. Even though you can coax sparks from stone, carrying a glowing heart of fire remains the most dependable way to move through winter. Your group sets out into snow that reaches nearly to your knees. Each footstep presses deeply, leaving a clear trail behind you. The air carries a biting chill, but you feel ready for it. Fire has changed the way you face winter. The ember bundle warms your hands. The fire-making stones weigh against your hip, promising possibility. As you travel across rolling hills, the wind begins to rise. Thin streams of snow swirl across the plains. Ice crystals sting your cheeks. The sky dims, hinting at another storm approaching. The hunters increase their pace, scanning the land for shelter. It comes sooner than expected. A ridge of jagged rocks rises ahead, breaking the monotony of white. At its base, the group discovers a shallow cave, large enough for all of you if you huddle tight. You slip inside first, checking for predators. Empty, cold, dry. You gather what little fuel remains in your packs. Twigs, bark, scraps of dried plant fiber. You unwrap the ember bundle and kneel in the cave's center, laying the warm coal into a nest of gathered materials. A few breaths, a few coaxing motions. Flame returns, steady and bright. The cave fills with soft light. Everyone gathers close, grateful for the refuge. You warm your hands near the fire. The warmth seeps into your skin, smoothing the shivers left by the wind outside. While the hunters watch the entrance, others begin preparing evening tasks. A small pot of snow melts into water beside the fire. Meat strips cook on heated stones. One member warms hide for weaving, their fingers moving with practiced skill. The child hums softly, tapping a rhythm with two charred sticks. As the meal cooks, you notice lines traced on the cave floor, marks from the child's earlier drawings, circles and lines describing animal tracks, simple patterns linked together, new ones added, the beginnings of something like memory preserved across moments. A curious idea sometimes explored by those who study ancient people suggests that firelight may have encouraged the first forms of storytelling and shared knowledge. Watching these marks under flickering light, you sense that this cave holds such a moment, a small spark of understanding passed between generations. After eating, you sit back and listen to the sounds around you. The hunters discuss tomorrow's path in low tones. The older members hum gentle melodies that rise and fall with the fire's crackle. Someone sharpens a tool. Someone braids a cord. Someone rests with eyes half closed, absorbing warmth. Your eyelids grow heavier as the fire's rhythm deepens. You lean closer to the flames, watching how light dances across the cave walls. The silhouettes of your companions shift gently like a living tapestry. Their movements echo months of endurance, adaptation, survival. A thought often shared by specialists suggests that fire was not just a tool, but a force that shaped social bonds, encouraged cooperation, and offered a mirror through which early humans understood themselves. Sitting here now, you see how true that feels. Fire gathers you together, softens the edges of fear, and gives space for ideas to take shape. Outside, the storm arrives. Wind howls. Snow rushes across the cave entrance in wild currents. The world beyond becomes a cold blur. But inside, your fire burns strong. The glow touches every face, reflecting warmth in tired eyes. You unfold your hands, feeling the heat soak deep into your palms. You think back to those first days of winter cold, uncertain, fragile. A time when even carrying a single ember felt like an impossible task. Now fire is not fragile. It is familiar, shaped, learned. Your thoughts drift to the first spark you coaxed from stone, the way your group stared in awe, the way that moment changed everything. The journey from borrowing fire to making it feels immense, like walking across the span of an entire world. As night closes fully around the cave, you lie down beside the fire with the group. The flames flicker softly, painting gentle shadows across the roof. The warmth settles into your bones. The sound of the storm fades into a distant murmur. You breathe deeply, slowly, letting weariness sink into comfort. You feel certainty rising in your chest. You survived winter, not by chance, but by learning, by observing, by adapting, by trusting the glow you carried through storms, hunger, cold, and long nights. The fire you tended has become more than light, more than warmth. It is a way of understanding the world, a companion in thought, a guide through hardship, a spark that reshaped not only your body but your mind. You look at your companions one last time, before closing your eyes. The firelight glimmers on their faces, reflecting the strength you all found through the hardest season. Tomorrow, the world will thaw, slowly, steadily, but for tonight, winter hums gentle lullabies against the cave walls, and you, wrapped in flickering gold, drift into rest. Let the light soften now. Let the glow of the fire fade into a warm haze behind your eyelids. The storm outside grows quieter with each passing breath, and the world feels smaller, gentler, as if the wind has curled itself around the night and chosen to rest. Take in a long, slow breath. Feel the air move easily through your chest. Let every exhale melt into the calm around you. In this quiet moment, imagine the fire still glowing beside you, its warmth drifting like a soft blanket over tired limbs. The flames no longer dance brightly. They settle into slow, steady pulses of amber, each one dimming your thoughts just a little further. The cold outside seems far away now, softened by distance and memory. Only warmth remains. Only the low, easy rhythm of breath and rest. Your companions sleep nearby, their shapes peaceful, softened by shadow. The cave holds the silence tenderly, wrapping you all in a shelter deeper than stone. Let yourself sink into that shelter. Let your muscles unwind. Let your mind drift like rising smoke. If any thoughts linger, let them float gently past, the way sparks drift upward before fading into the night. There is no need to follow them, no need to reach for anything at all. Just breathe, just soften, just settle. The warmth of the ember you carried for so long still lives in you, a quiet point of light, a memory of strength, a promise of gentler days ahead. Hold that warmth lightly, let it glow within your chest. Now the night grows still, the fire whispers softly, and you, safe in your circle of quiet, can rest deeply.